gets 3 points per win. So that means the 11 was 8, but after 4 wins is now first. Leads 48 to 14 in the 2x3. Then comes the 16 and 15, both two-time winners, who were first and 7th, but are now 5th and 6th. Next come the 88 and 17, who each won once and start the chase 9 points behind the 11. The 29 and 56 didn't win, so they joined the 5 and 24, who both won, but earned 0 points for it. You with me? Here's where we are. 12 drivers, 10 races, 1 champion.
Very good, dude. And one of those contending for the title is this man in the 88, Dale Earnhardt Jr., his crew chief, Steve Letarte. Happy with the piece that he's given you today. Unfortunately, instead of starting 4th, you're going to start from the back. How does that change the challenge and your approach to it?
Well, we can, if we get an early caution or something, we can do some creative stuff to get off strategy. But we got a good car. I feel like we can overcome it. I made a mistake there in qualifying and tore the engine up. So just going to have to work a little harder today.
And standing next to him is Clint Boyer. And Clint, a lot of people talking about these NWR cars in the garage and how good they've been over the past month or so. How do you feel you've got what you've got today?
I got a lot of confidence rolling into this race, into the chase. Fresh off a win last week in Richmond, certainly doesn't hurt anything. But just a tremendous amount of confidence and respect from our crew chief Brian Patty, everybody at MWR. They got us looking good. They got us in really good equipment, and we got a good shot at today's race and maybe even the chase.
Got a big smile on his face. Sly cat smile, Nicole.
Well, a couple of the chasers had a really good qualifying session, like Dale Earnhardt Jr. He qualified 4th, but as you heard Vince mention, he will go to the back of the field because of that engine change. And the big topic around the sport this week is the technical bulletin that was released about 10 days ago. Ray, it's the one that addresses what we've been seeing at the 2-mile tracks, the 1.5-mile tracks, what we're going to see right here.
Well, as you'll see in the video, Nicole, look at the cars coming down the straightaway, and you see the spoilers on the 16 and the 48, how much of that spoiler you could see. And what the teams were doing was using the rear suspension geometry to move around and put those spoilers out to the wind, which makes more aerodynamic downforce and gives an advantage. NASCAR did not make a rule change saying they couldn't do it. They just stopped them from going further. Should not affect the people at Hendrick in any way, shape, or form. They don't feel like this rule is really aimed at them. It's not going to affect their cars at all.
Well, it certainly did not affect Jimmy Johnson in qualifying. He is the Coors Light Pole Award winner this week, and Johnson is standing by with Dave Burns.
Riding by, that would be Nicole. Down the front straightaway the wrong way. Let's not try that today. How would you define the championship character of this year's 48 team, Jimmy?
It's early, so we're all very eager and feel like we've learned from past mistakes and certainly want to pull from past experience and being successful in this chase. So right now, my confidence meter is pegged along with the other 11 chasers. So we'll see how today goes. Feel very good about our race car, and clearly qualifying went well. So we're hoping for big things.
Jimmy's 27th career pole is the second of the season and comes at a great time, Nicole.
And let's be clear again, in case you missed what Ray said, this is not a rule change. It is what NASCAR says, that they're stopping the science experiment at where these teams are right now. So, Brad, my question is, what we saw in Michigan, what we saw, at other 1.5-mile tracks, 2-mile tracks, Atlanta, will we see it again here today?
Well, I think what we will see is the Hendrick Motorsports cars, whether it's Tony Stewart or the other 4 guys, still compete at such a high level. This is just one area on the race car that Hendrick Motorsports was so far ahead of everyone else that it almost seemed like a disadvantage. As Ray was talking inside the camp over there, they don't feel like this was levied at them, but I disagree with that. I think that because they were getting so far ahead of everyone else with this rear steer stuff, I think that it had to be stopped. So, or a period put on it. But to answer your question, the Hendrick Motorsports stuff is the pinnacle. They are the standard barrier in this sport. And if you're going to win a championship, you're going to have to beat one of those Hendrick cars, which have won the last 6 championships, my friend.
Well, I can tell you one thing. This thing was a classic case of monkey see, monkey do.
Oh, totally.
They all saw what he was doing. They all did the same thing. Now we got a level playing field, and this is old news right now. Let's move on to something else.
Well, what I think is interesting is NASCAR told us, and I quote, there's been a lot of posturing and positioning in the garage this week in case something happens, like failure to perform in the chase. That's what NASCAR
maybe
is saying.
Maybe so. But I think NASCAR did the right thing. It was within the rules, but I like what they've done by putting a limit on it. So now we all have a boundary to work within.
One thing you need to remember, nobody's cheating, like Brad said. Nobody's cheating. Those guys were just smarter than anybody else at that particular time. Yep. Now everybody's copying what they're doing, and let's move on. That's how we're going to be.
And we will move. Okay, go ahead.
As a crew chief, it's a good compliment when everybody thinks they made a rule change because you know if they're worried about the trick parts and pieces you have, they're not paying attention to the basics, and they're going to make a mistake.
I agree.
Someone who does like the mustache?
Yes.
Check this out. Cute kids on the grid. Tony, Jeff Gordon's daughter.
Oh, yeah.
See, she's not freaked out by the
She's
mustache.
the only one that likes that mustache. That's a scary-looking mustache. It's like a caterpillar on his lip.
When we come back, how about this guy? He said,
Oh, my goodness.
Poor Delana. Oh, man. That was unplanned.
See what happened?
Anyway, Tony Stewart, what happened was he set the bar in the chase last year with 5 wins.
Man.
Is that what it's going to take this year?
No
Consistency
comment.
versus wins. What will win out?
Dang.
Oh, that poor girl.
She didn't see that coming.
You ain't lying.
Neither did we.
That's a poor joke guy.
Bye. Good riddance. An old companion that we never really loved. Just kinda tolerated. Talking about the death of that old nuisance, Points Racing. Chased off this mortal coil by the chase itself. In order to win the cup, you can no longer collect points. You must collect trophies. To quote the great theologian Al Davis, just win, baby.
And that is what is at stake, because at the end of these 10 weeks, only one driver and one team can hoist that trophy. We're at Chicagoland Speedway for the kickoff of this 10-week chase. It's, of course, NASCAR's version of the playoffs. And if it is half as good as what we saw last year, well, then sit tight. In 2011, we saw Carl Edwards average a 4.9 average finish in the final 10 races. The best ever in the chase, but it wasn't enough for the title, because for just the 4th time in the chase era, the driver who won the title didn't have the best average finish. Tony Stewart averaged 6.3, but he won 5 times in the final 10 races of the season. So it could be said, Rusty, that last year, wins simply beat consistency.
Well, you could think about it that way because, I mean, look, you just mentioned Carl Edwards had all that very good consistency. And Tony Stewart had all those wins, and he won. But they tied at the very end of the year. I mean, a complete tie. So it was 2 different approaches. I'll guarantee you Carl Edwards would have liked to win, but he didn't. So, look, the NASCAR point system was always built out of consistency. It's always been about consistency. And, look, you want to win. I realize you want to win. But, man, I'll tell you what, I'll take that consistency anytime.
They tied, but who hoisted the trophy?
I hear you. I do. We're only talking
What
1
matters?
point.
Right, but
One
they
position.
still tied, and who won the
I
championship?
know you're really riding that horse about you got to win, you got to win.
I like to be
And
right.
you are a little bit right, but would you rather be consistent or have a couple wins?
I'd rather win the championship.
Yeah, okay.
That's just me,
Well,
though. Whatever. What's going to win this year?
consistency.
Wins or consistency?
I don't know how to race to be consistent. I only know how to race to win. Every time that we got involved in consistency, we didn't run good. You go out, you win, you give your best effort, you try and win. That's what has to be consistent, your effort to win. I don't know how to race to be consistent. I only know how to race to win.
Well, I think everyone is right. I think you have to be very consistent, obviously, but you're going to have to win because of the competition. These are the best in the business, and these guys are going to force your hand. They're going to force you to race hard for wins in order to have an opportunity, and you simply have to gain those bonus points. There are 48 bonus points out there, and you're going to have a lion's share in order to have a victory, to win a championship, that is, in this.
Yeah, you
Cup
blow a
season.
motor one time, though, you're not consistent, you're going to be out of that sucker. I
agree.
promise you.
I agree.
Well, he set the bar last year with those 5 wins, Doc. What does Tony Stewart have up his sleeve this time around?
Well, we talked about the fact that last year this 14 team limped into the chase, winless in the regular season, and then just exploded with 5 wins and a championship. Smoke, what are the chances? How confident are you that you can and will duplicate that impressive performance again this year?
Well, obviously, I wasn't very good last year predicting, so I'm not sure I'm the right guy to ask about a prediction today. But I know that the effort that everybody on this Office Depot Mobile One Chevy team, Stewart Haas Racing, I know what effort they've put into these race cars, and I'm proud of our group, and I think we're ready to go for 10 weeks. I mean, I'm proud of Steve Addington, and I can normally tell on Sunday by looking at him whether we're going to be all right or not, and so. when he's got that grin, you're normally going to be all right.
Hey, have some fun today.
All right, pal. Hey, I do want to say this. I want to say congratulations to Ryan Hunter-Reay and Michael Andretti on the IndyCar Championship and Chevy on the Manufacturers Championship. And most of all, say I was proud to say that I watched live Bob Jenkins' last race. So proud of you, Bob, and hope you come still see us every once in a while.
Bob Jenkins, one of the all-time best. And by the way, Nicole, Tony starts 29th today, and they're not worried at all because last year he won this race starting back in 26th position.
Thank you, Doc. And by the way, I just want to point this out because, again, I like to be right. The tiebreaker is wins. When we come back, we give our guys the criteria. They pick the winner, and not just of today's race, but of the chase. And I'll give you a clue. It's not a unanimous decision. You see how I do that? They close your mics, I get to speak.
Yep. I noticed they did that.
Smart like that.
Women always get the last
Turn my mic off.
Think she won that.
Back at Chicagoland Speedway, where it's almost time for the talk to end and the racing to begin, and almost time for all the looking to stop. In-car cameras don't actually start the race looking at the drivers. That's
pretty
Jimmy
cute
Johnson
right
and his
there
daughter right there. See?
I know, it's cute. It is
there
cute.
You go.
It's very cute.
I said it's almost time for the talk to end, but right now, let's talk to Greg Biffle with Jamie Little.
Nicole, there's cuteness everywhere down here. Kids galore. Well, Greg Biffle certainly had a great regular season. Ended as the point leader, 2 wins, but you haven't had the car that you wanted this weekend. They made a lot of changes. What do you expect from those changes?
Well, I'm hoping and praying this car is faster than it was in practice. You know, we struggled a little bit, which is odd because this is a great racetrack course, 1.5 miles. But we kind of went back to what we did last year, looked at the setup a little bit from Texas, kind of a somewhat similar track, and so we think we're going to be a lot better today. And, you know, we got hopes to get this Ford Fusion up front.
All right, they're pretty good on these tracks, but they've never won, Ford that is, at this track. Nicole?
Okay, gentlemen, you know I'm not letting you off easy. Here are the rules, because today we're not just picking a race winner. We, and by we I mean you guys, are picking the champion based on the following criteria. We'll get to that in a second, but first, here's Dave with Jeff Gordon.
Yeah, we're kind of looking around to make sure Doherty is still in his seat. Hey, thanks for having some fun with us earlier. That was a good time. This week, Jeff, you said that the impact of last week's run at Richmond was still being felt. How are you feeling it today going into today's race?
No, it's, you know, we know that you just never give up. And, you know, these last 3 weeks, especially Richmond, that race with the way it started, the way it got turned around for us, and just the attitude, the effort that was put out by this team was unbelievable. And so, you know, that just tells you what kind of team we really do have and what kind of effort we're going to have to put out these next 10 weeks. Really excited about our DuPont Chevrolet here. Thank them for being with us for 20 years. It's pretty amazing, this partnership we've had, and we hope we can give them a great start to the chase here for the Sprint Cup here at Chicago. Also, just want to remind the fans that we got about a week left with our Jeff Gordon Children's Foundation Corvette raffle, so go to jeffgordonchildrensfoundation.org, and we appreciate all the support, and it's been a great program for us.
Jeff is 19th on the grid and a great pick for this year's chase. Nicole?
Brad, I do want to see a stash out of you next week. I'm just laying it out there right now. By the way, here's the criteria for how you're going to pick who wins this. The best driver, the best crew chief, the best team, the best engine, and of course those pesky intangibles. That's the criteria for our analysts. Sure. But we asked you who you thought would win the championship of the top 3 seeds, or that famous guy named Other. Sports Nation, you say, and I believe it's 49% of you, who believe Other will win this championship.
Wow.
28% of you say Jimmy Johnson.
Wow.
So Sports Nation's on the hot seat with their selection. And now, so are our analysts, and Dale Jarrett, who's upstairs. You picked the short straw, so you get to go first, my friend.
Well, looking at the criteria there, all the things that I put down, it brought me to Denny Hamlin. And then when I see the Sports Nation poll, he's got 11% of it. He drives car 11, and 11 happens to be my lucky number, so I have to stick with that. But if there would have been a number 6 that says your gut's telling you something else, I picked Jeff Gordon at the beginning of this year in a poll to win this championship. There's something telling me don't count this guy out.
That's a wee bit wishy-washy, but I think he chose Denny Hamlin. And by the way, nice stash in that picture. Rusty, who are you picking?
Well, for me, it's going to be Jimmy Johnson. I mean, this guy, there's one big race that I've judged this over, and that was the Indianapolis Brickyard 400. We all said going into that race, whoever wins this race has got the best team, is probably going to go on to win the championship. Jimmy not only won that race, but he dominated that race. He had the best car, the best aerodynamics, the best everything that day. So Jimmy Johnson for me.
Andy, who do you like?
I like Jimmy Johnson. When I go through those categories, how do you not rank him number one in almost every single one of them? As a matter of fact, I had him number one, except one category. One category was the engines, that they may not have as good a point score for me on engines because they've had a little bit of trouble there.
Ray, I've seen your picture before.
I know. You know, and like Andy, I agree with the statistics. I'm a crew chief. The numbers, you look at, it's got to say Jimmy Johnson, but the intangible tells me I've been in the trenches with this guy. This guy can step up. He's a big game player. I feel Jeff Gordon's going to stay on the momentum. He's going to be the champion this year.
That guy?
Who is that one? I am told that is 1982 in Martinsville, by the way. Who are you picking?
What I say, let's make sure that door's closed over there. I want Jeff Gordon coming in. I'm taking the 48 car, just statistically, like Ray's saying, there's no way you can pick against it.
Gentlemen, thank you very much, and thanks for playing along. We'll find out who's right and who's wrong in 10 weeks. Nice. We'll find out which driver gets off to a good start when we go green from Chicagoland with Alan, DJ, and Andy. Plus, the difference between racing with nothing to lose and racing with everything to lose. That's next.
Chasing the dream of being the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series champion. Beginning today on a beautiful Sunday in America's heartland as ESPN brings you race number one in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup, the Geico 400.
Remove your hats as the Company E 4th Reconnaissance Battalion out of Joliet, Illinois presents our nation's colors. Please remain standing as Glenn Spoolstra from Raceway Ministries offers today's invocation.
Shall we pray? Dear Lord, we praise and thank you for this beautiful day that you've given us. Lord, we praise and thank you for your son Jesus, who has given us salvation. And Lord, we just praise you for this country, for the men and women around the world, and the men and women that were inducted today that are there to keep us safe. Lord, we pray for safety for the drivers, for the crews, for the safety crews, and everyone involved. Lord, we just thank you again for this day and look forward to a great spectacle. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Here to perform our national anthem, please welcome Capitol Records, Nashville's platinum-selling recording artist, Luke Bryan.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
So as the drivers begin to climb aboard and buckle in, we remind you can check out NASCAR.com/RaceBuddy and watch coverage live from Chicagoland Speedway today by following your favorite drivers for free with 8 live camera views. Race number 1 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup's about to begin. The command to start engines is next at Chicagoland Speedway.
12 faces of the chase. They tell 12 stories. From the champions to the upstart. They seek to recharge a career. Underline a legend. Say goodbye. Prove worthy of a name. Finally fulfill potential. Win what was once lost. Avenge heartbreak. Or hey, just have a good time. The 12 faces of the chase. They may tell 12 stories, but they share one goal.
And the path to that prize, the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series Championship, begins in just moments when the engines fire for the Geico 400 here at Chicagoland Speedway on a beautiful, sunny 75-degree Sunday afternoon. Hello from topside, Alan Bestwick with champion driver Dale Jarrett and champion crew chief Andy Petrie. The 12 drivers competing for this championship within the field of 43 will all tell you this is just another race. That's how I'm going to approach it. It's just another race. But you've been there inside those helmets, in these cars. Is that really how it is?
No, that's not the case at all. They're trying to convince us and themselves that this is just another race. But this is the first race of the chase. Certainly, you can't win the championship here, but a mistake could cost you that opportunity to win the championship, making an even more uphill battle than what it already is. So these drivers know it requires all of their concentration here today to do all the right things. The pressure will actually be less for the next 2 or 3, but this is a big day for them.
The intensity level is definitely going to come up with these 12 drivers. They basically earn the right now to take a little bit more than they give in these last 10 races. And I think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see a lot of aggressive driving to try to get these points, but you're going to see that intensity level at the all-time high.
And at this racetrack and in this particular race, the pressure on the crew chiefs ramps up as well.
It is. I mean, this is coming into especially these mile-and-a-halves, you see a lot of these things come down to strategy. The last part of the race you can see has been run green flag. That puts a lot of pressure on the crew chief to make sure that you position your car well and have good enough fuel mileage and that you're making good decisions on the strategy.
And what about the other 31 drivers in the field beside the chasers?
It's about winning. That's the biggest thing for them, is to get out there. They're in the middle of it. That's what separates our sport from these others in this championship.
Well, we'll see how it plays out over 400 miles of this very fast mile-and-a-half track this afternoon here at Chicagoland. Let's go trackside and get it started.
And now for the most famous words in motorsports, please welcome the Midwest Regional Vice President of Geico, Scott Markle.
Drivers, start your engines!
Just started, but radar stop. So, yeah, as soon as he passes the 88, like you said, we're good to go. Yeah, boy. Then you have to just make.
Ready to race and ready to chase at Chicagoland Speedway for race number 1 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. Our ESPN in-race reporter is the defending Sprint Cup Series champ. A year ago, Tony Stewart entered this race winless on the year, but began a magical run to the Cup by taking home the trophy here. We heard during that race how the fire had been lit in smoke.
Yeah, we stay away from some of these idiots out here. We'll be fine, but there's a lot of guys racing every lap like it's the last lap, so we pretty much have adopted the same attitude. If that's the way they're going to race, that's the way we're going to race.
We'll see if Tony has that same fire inside as he gets set to go today in chase race number 1.
ESPN salutes Goodyear, the tire chosen by fans to get them to the race.
Start strong. Finish stronger. That's how you win the game, no matter what your game is. Sure, you can stumble a little and still make a comeback. But what is it they say about not being the lead dog? Oh yeah, back there, the view never changes.
Well, you don't have to win the opening race of the chase to win the championship, But the 8-year history of the chase format shows us that the eventual champion usually gets his chase off to a pretty good start.
Yeah, if your name's not Jimmy Johnson, you better get things going. He's the only one that's had a couple of stumbles.
Well, you can't get any more solid than winning, which is exactly what that guy on the right, Tony Stewart, did a year ago to open his chase. Stewart was our ESPN in-race reporter that day, and he is again today. Let's talk to him as he rolls out onto the track.
Hey, Tony, Dale Jarrett, ESPN. You have a copy?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Tony, as you begin your chase of another championship, we have seen these fast, slick, mile-and-a-half tracks bring some of your most impressive performances. How do things look for you today?
Well, just getting the balance, really. I mean, this place is this is a fun racetrack for a driver because, as you can already see, the grooves already from the bottom to the top. So, you know, we gotta do everything we can to just keep the balance and, you know, just pick these guys off one at a time. I mean, it's a very, very big momentum-driven racetrack. So, you know, if you're off a little bit, it hurts you a lot. So we just got to work hard on keeping the balance all day, see if we can keep this Office Depot Mobile and Chevy going forward, not backwards.
Hey, Tony, as you start this chase, you're in a little better position than last year. You've got 9 bonus points that you didn't have starting, and that leads us to our mailbag question that comes from Jonathan in Portland, Oregon. He asked, entering the chase last year, you were racing with nothing to lose. Now that you're the defending champion, how are you approaching this chase differently?
Well, we really don't. I mean, it's nice having these 9 bonus points, but you know, at the same time, you still got to race it one race at a time, and there was no blueprint last year how to do this, obviously. So we just got to go out with the same approach as last year, just one race at a time, and you know, try to do the best we can.
All right, Smoke, thanks for talking with us. We'll be back with you during the race. Have a great day. Now, Andy's going to talk to your crew chief, Steve Addington.
Thank you.
Hey, Steve Addington, it's Andy Petrie in the booth. You guys have you got a big job ahead of you. You got 12 great race teams in this chase. What's going to set your team apart from the other 11 as we go into this thing?
All right, looks like we're having a little difficulty hearing Steve, even though we heard Tony fine, so we'll check back in with Steve Addington in just a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure he wasn't transmitting on the wrong frequency there. I could see him talking.
Well, they'll straighten that out here in just a minute as they get set to go. 3 parade and pace laps before the green flag in today's race. The drivers have all talked about this championship being too close to call, and I won't ask you to call it, but I will ask you to look at the field of 12 who are competing for the championship and point out a couple of particular interest to you and why.
Yeah, this is going to be a great chase, but as I look at this, I'm going to focus on 2 drivers and kind of on different ends of the spectrum. I'm going to start out at Denny Hamlin, who's won the most races on top of the standings right now. Did he learn enough in losing that championship a couple of years ago to make things happen this year? I really like his chances here. Then I'm going to go to the bottom. Jeff Gordon had to fight his way into this chase. And there's just something telling me that Jeff Gordon sees this as his best opportunity to get that 5th championship.
Now, I think Jimmy Johnson is obviously the favorite, but I look at 2 other guys as being his probably best challengers. That 2-car, Brad Keselowski, I'm going to be watching him. This team has a lot going for it right now. They got a lot of speed. They got a great communication between the crew chief and driver, Paul Wolf and Brad Keselowski. I think that's a team to watch to win this thing. And also, Dale Earnhardt Jr., he's had an incredibly consistent year. This might be his best shot to have a chance to win this championship, and I really like the relationship that he has with his crew chief, Steve Letarte.
You see Junior dropping to the back of the pack, and engine change after qualifying by NASCAR rule. You'll start at the tail end of the field. He gives up 4th starting spot and comes from the back of the pack. Several of our ESPN high-definition onboard cameras are riding with chase drivers today, including Brad Keselowski, who's got the Dodge on board.
Yes, the track's going to get wide here pretty quick, Joe. Keep me posted, please. Absolutely. It's still nice and dark from yesterday's race. Obviously, no rain helps that, but...
Danica Patrick is carrying our GoDaddy onboard camera today.
How are you? Good?
I'm ready. I said, are you good?
Oh, yeah. Ready.
Everybody's ready. Denny Hamlin, the fresh from Florida Gulf Seafood on board. Tony Stewart, just heard from, got our Coca-Cola on board today. Clint Boyer with a 5-hour energy on board, the Richmond winner last week. There's Jeff Gordon, the 4-time champ, with the Sprint on board. Five-time champ Jimmy Johnson starting on pole with the Lowe's onboard camera, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. back of the field right now in the Chevy onboard camera. So half a lap from the start. Let's check down on pit road with Dr. Jerry Punch.
Well, and Jimmy Johnson didn't win 5 championships by accident. It took a lot of talent, strategy, teamwork, and overall effort. Now, credit the talent and strategy part there to Crew Chief Chad Canals. Each year during the regular season, Chad finds the best race car, sets them aside, and saves them for the chase. The car today raced twice this year, dominating the win both times at Dover and Indy. So, folks, if Chad's plan works today, Jimmy sets sail toward title number 6. Vince Welch.
Matt Kenseth is a former series champion. He won the Daytona 500, and he's been top 3 in points most of the season. But crew chief Jimmy Finnick has been searching for the setup throughout much of this weekend. They believe they found it, and they're happy with the car they have coming into the race. They've been good on the mile-and-a-halfs this season. Kenseth hopes he's great today. Alan?
Mile-and-a-half track, 400 miles, 267 laps the distance. Big crowd on hand, beautiful weather, and big stakes for the Geico 400. Jimmy Johnson leads him to the start. One of those drivers with no other task today than win. Leads lap number 1 in Richard Petty's 43.
I'm sure Jimmy Johnson would have loved to have gotten that bonus point out of the way for leading on that first lap, but Eric Almirola got a great start. Good run off turn 2.
5th place there, Denny Hamlin 11, Carl Edwards 99, Regan Smith in the 78, right in the mix.
Looks like it took a lap or so for Jimmy's car to come in. Looks like he's starting to reel in Almirola.
Here's Clint Boyer, 15, taking a look down low. Boyer's running 8th, trying to get 7th.
Yeah, a lot of people talked about this 15 car in practice on Friday afternoon in the longer runs. He was very, very strong. Of course, last week's winner at Richmond.
And for the lead. Remember, by rule in NASCAR, when you lead a lap, any lap during the race, you're credited with 1 bonus point toward the championship 1 time during the race. If you lead the most total laps in the race, you get another bonus point toward the championship.
But he hasn't done it yet because you got to do it at the start-finish line. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, that's the only place it counts. I think he's going to get him here. Bold prediction on my part, huh? Might not. Let's see. Yeah, he's got him cleared.
A new leader, 48.
Jamie McMurray really working that high lane in that 1 car in these opening couple of laps. Now, of course, he goes to the bottom, but we saw him on the first lap 3 wide out there.
Yeah, I saw him in practice be up pretty high in practice. And we did a lot of these drivers in cars.
That's what I love about this racetrack. We heard Tony Stewart talking about just how wide the racing surface or the racing groove is, and that's what I love about this place. You can race all over.
Frank Keselowski, one of the drivers that ran in the nationwide race yesterday, so he's got a little bit of an idea of what to expect from this racetrack after 300 miles yesterday.
Now the race for second is Casey Kane. Creeps in on the back bumper of Eric Almirola and looks to the bottom side. Kane in the 5.
People talking about who could possibly win this. A lot of people think Casey Kane, Kenny Francis with this 5 car, if they can have some consistency about them for these 10 races, Andy, they might be a threat for the championship.
Yeah, they've shown tremendous speed at different times this year. This kind of track, too, plays into their favor. I think this is one of Casey Kane's favorite style of racetracks, these mile-and-a-halfs.
And there are 5 of the 10 races in the chase that are on mile-and-a-half speedways. All a little bit different. All just got their own characteristics, but still that similar high speed, high momentum configuration that Kane just seems to love and thrive on so much.
Yeah, I'll be surprised if we don't see Casey Kane working the top side of this racetrack when these tires get some laps on him. And that's one of the things he's really good at. He can work that high lane just about as good as anybody. I know he's working the bottom right now.
Not much choice right now. Eric Almirola's not giving him any other options.
New crew chief this week for Almirola in the 43, Richard Petty Motorsports, after Marcus Ambrose did not make the chase, swapping its entire crews between its drivers. So now calling the shots for this 43, our veteran crew chief Todd Parrott, a man who's had great success in this sport in the past, particularly with the man standing to my right, Dale Jarrett.
And right there's Ambrose in the 9 car. That's the other team that they swapped. They're both in the top 15, 16 right now.
18, Kyle Busch, trying to work his way forward, as is Jeff Gordon in the 24. That is 13th place he just took from Jamie McMurray.
Yeah, this is another driver that a lot of people were talking about on Friday in longer runs. Once again, this 24 car seemed to be one of the top 5 that everyone was looking at. What a drive he put on last Saturday night at Richmond.
Didn't he, though?
All night long, as it took.
Came back from a lap down, charged up through the field, finished second to race his way into the chase at the expense of Kyle Busch. Jimmy Johnson started on pole, has led most of the laps in the early going in the Geico 400. There's the view of Jimmy Johnson, the race leader. And the gap he has to second place Casey Kane. It is 1.69 seconds, first to second. With Eric Almirola third. Denny Hamlin and Matt Kenseth running in the number 5 position. Dale Earnhardt Jr., remember, had to start at the tail end of the field after an engine change. After qualifying, we take an inside look and get unlimited access to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Brought to you by the NASCAR Sprint Cup mobile app and truly unlimited data on the Sprint network. Earnhardt Jr., the biggest mover in the race so far. 42nd to 22nd. Get unlimited access to NASCAR with live in-car audio and real-time stats on the NASCAR Sprint Cup mobile app, only from Sprint. Get the app and learn more about Sprint's truly unlimited data plan at sprint.com/speed. 5th place changing hands.
Yeah, I talked to Brian Patty, crew chief Clint Boyer in that 15. He said these mile-and-a-halves hadn't really been their strong suit, but this week, he said they had a lot of speed in that car. He sounded very confident this morning.
Yeah, when I think of Brian Patty, though, as a crew chief, I always think about these type of racetracks being something he's really good at with the shock and spring combinations.
That's 2 positions in 2 laps for Jeff Gordon. He went by Mark Martin. Now he's gone by Sam Hornish Jr. in the 22. And that puts Gordon to the number 11 spot, trying to crack the top 10 if he can pass Regan Smith in the 78. Jeff talking about on Countdown when Dave Burns interviewed him about what that drive at Richmond did into the chase for he and his team a week ago. Momentum is a big thing, but this is a long championship stretch. 10 weeks is a long time to carry momentum.
Yeah, there's one thing about that. It was incredible what they did the last few races to get in. You see a pass here now. Looks like Keselowski is going to move past Matt Kenseth. We talk about what he did, what Jeff Gordon did to get into the chase. I'm not sure it didn't take a little bit out of him. It's almost like you got to take a breath after something like that. So I'm kind of watching to see if this team can maintain that intensity level over the next few weeks.
Yeah, and you talk about momentum. I would have to say that all 12 drivers and teams feel like they have momentum. They're in the chase. So they worked hard for those 26 weeks to get themselves in that position. So don't know that that's anything to advantage. But I think that Jeff Gordon saw something in his race team that made him really feel like, okay, now we do have an opportunity. We have the team that can handle this 10 race stretch.
Carl Edwards, 99, running in 9th spot with Smith and Gordon in close pursuit. We continue to watch Dale Earnhardt Jr. track forward through the field. Looks like he's got a pretty sporty race car in the early going, Vince.
That's exactly right. He's up 20 spots already. Crew Chief Steve Letarte was very confident of the race car that he had. He said, I think we've got a top 2 or 3 race car today. The only problem is we're starting so far back. We want to make sure we avoid the trouble getting to the front. That's the big challenge right now. Junior's been very quiet on the radio. Normally for a race car driver, that's a real good sign. Dave Burns?
Well, not quiet has been Martin Truex Jr. He's going the opposite direction of Dale Earnhardt Jr. Truex started 16th. He's fallen all the way back to 23rd. It started out by just chattering the fronts. As you see, that second place battle right now, and Almirola's going to get it back. But for Martin Truex Jr., it's just been plowing. Martin said it doesn't feel any different, like it's on the splitter, but it must be. And after looking at the lap times, crew chief Chad Johnston feels the same. They're going to have some major work to do on the 56 the first time they come down pit road.
Now, when you feel that chatter in the front tires, it can be that splitter just taking the load off of the front end. And it's sometimes hard to feel. Like he said, he didn't think he felt the splitter hitting, but the way the car's driving, it must be.
So Truex slipping back in the opening segment of the race while Earnhardt Jr. and Jeff Gordon both go forward. Jimmy Johnson started on pole. 11 chase races have been won from first, 6 of them by Jimmy.
To go in and win down there in Atlanta though the last few years.
Yeah, but boy, he looked good last Sunday night against the Steelers. Jimmy Johnson out in front. As we approach the 50-mile mark of today's Geico 400, he's got 2.6 seconds over a back-and-forth race for second place. Casey Kane and Eric Almirola kind of keep swapping that second spot back and forth, but Kane has moved away from Almirola by a couple of car lengths in the last couple of laps. Change for fourth place as Brad Keselowski has slipped past Denny Hamlin, and Denny kicked back to the number 5 position.
That 2 car's catching these top 3 pretty quick, too. The last few laps, he's been quicker than all 3 of them.
Leader into the tail end of the field and putting some cars a lap down, including Danica Patrick about to go a lap down to Johnson. Danica running in 35th, Dave.
And Alan, this wasn't supposed to be the way it would be for Danica. In her mock qualifying run on Friday, she was 18th on the board. Greg Zipadelli, the crew chief, told me that during qualifying, however, the car was so loose, that's why she ended up 41st. So those buffer of cars they were hoping they'd have on this early run were not there, and they kind of expected to go down a lap early. The car's loose now as well.
So Patrick now the first car 1 lap down. If the caution comes out, she'd get the free pass and come back around. It's a little bit before leader Jimmy Johnson will catch the next car in line. Pretty solid in the opening run here for Clint Boyer in that 15 car. Keeps moving forward.
Yeah, Clint, this team really believes that they have an opportunity to be a part of this chase and make a real difference. A lot of good racetracks for Clint Boyer coming up. And well, if they can perform well here today, that's kind of going to set the tone for them, I believe, because they go to tracks that he's won at with New Hampshire next weekend, short tracks at Martinsville he runs well at, and what I've said this before, but he looks forward to going to Talladega and racing when a lot of the others don't, and I think that's going to put him in a good position there.
Yep. Greg Biffle sliding all over the place while Dale Earnhardt Jr. continues to move toward the front.
Yeah, Biffle definitely struggling, but
Junior had a close call here.
Yeah, we also saw this with Junior. Like he made pretty good contact right there. Evidently, they didn't hurt the car too much. He's still passing cars. At least he passed Greg Biffle.
That's Trevor Bayne in the 21.
That's a pretty good lick.
Still there. Extra shore. Still there. Shore.
So Vince Jr. up to 19th now.
They had a big scare on that, Alan, because Junior thought maybe they had cut the right rear down, and the crew got on the wall immediately. They contemplated coming in, and then Junior said, no, I think we're going to be okay. So doesn't seem to be any serious damage from that contact, but boy, it got their attention in a hurry. He says it's a little bit lazy off the corner, not exactly to his liking, but otherwise he's been pretty positive about the car so far.
Isn't that a word we heard him use last Saturday night at Richmond, too, talking about his car? As third position changes hands. Brad Keselowski moving forward. Caution free so far. First round of pit stops will be coming soon. So we'll take a break and come back to be here for the action on the pit lane. The Geico 400, being led by Jimmy Johnson.
Back at Chicagoland Speedway, getting set for green flag pit stops here. The 11 car on pit road, points leader Denny Hamlin. And like most of them, talking about a little free on the side, entering the corner. 4 tires, air pressure change, down and away. Still waiting for Jimmy Johnson to pit. Here comes the 24 car of Jeff Gordon Dave.
Doc, he drove from 19th to 9th during that first run. His car, though, a little loose when it lands. A little tight when it lands. It needs to turn better in the center of the corner. He'll get Sunoco fuel, 4 tires, and a track bar adjustment to help him. Doc, back to you.
How about the reigning champ, Tony Stewart? What a drive from 29th starting spot into 11th position. Tony said the car a little tight in the middle, needs a little help rolling the center of the corner. 4 tires, air pressure adjustment on the 14 car. Dave.
Casey Kane loves the way his car works in turns 3 and 4, but in turns 1 and 2, a little bit loose. They'll make a wedge adjustment and an air pressure adjustment for Casey. Wedge wrench in the left rear. Vince.
The 99 of Carl Edwards, remember, he missed the chase. They make the chassis adjustment, 4 tires, air pressure. Said the car needs help turning. Hasn't been too bad, but needs to be a little bit better in the center.
Jimmy Johnson, the leader, on pit road. Here he is, Doc.
Jimmy said we began a little bit free off, then we started getting freer in. He said, guys, we lack rear grip when the car unloads. You guys can explain what that means in a moment. They are making a chassis adjustment. Also an air pressure change. Chad said, we can fix it for you, buddy. You got to be able to use that throttle up off. Left side chassis, 4 tires, and Johnson's away. Here comes the 2 car. Brad Keselowski down pit road. And Brad said, I'm really free in and free off. They got to get him tightened up coming off so he can get in the throttle and stay in the throttle. Keselowski, who ran the nationwide racer yesterday, understands what this track's going to do. Brad says as the race evolves, it's going to get freer and freer. So guys, Paul, you got to tighten me up, buddy. That's exactly what they're going to do. Significant air pressure adjustment. Right side tire change. They're going to top it off, get it completely full of Sunoco fuel. Go to the left side, get it completely full, lug nuts on, and Keselowski will be away. The 17 car, Vince.
Here comes the 17 of Matt Kenseth. He was leading when he left the track. He says it's just a little bit loose off, especially in clean air. So they're going to make that adjustment. Wedge in, also chattering the center. It's a 4-tire change for the 17 of Matt Kenseth.
Both Kenseth and Brad Keselowski staying out an extra lap or 2 to get a bonus point toward the championship. And the cycle of pit stops just about completed. And it's going to be Jimmy Johnson going back to the lead with Casey Kane running in second, just like it was before the stops. And there's the gap, first to second. Casey closing up, little ground.
Yeah, and I saw the 43 come down pit road again. I assume he was
penalty up
too fast.
Nope, had a right side tire violation on the 43. One of the tires got away when the car left. It was still out in the outer half of the pit box, and Sam Hornish Jr. had a speeding penalty for speeding exiting on his original stop. He had to come back for a pass-through.
Yeah, the rule is on that you have to have both your right side tires on the inside half before the car leaves the pit box.
Speedy car, speedy work by the pit crew.
That's a great pit stop. 11-8. His team really stepping it up for him.
Yep,
this is when it counts.
His job. Yeah.
It counts right now in the chase. These guys really need to get it done on pit road.
Man, when you can do that as a driver, when your crew does all of those things and picks you up a couple of spots, you don't have to fight those guys on the racetrack.
Picked up 5 on that exchange of pit stops the whole cycle. It's pretty good.
That's huge.
I get you up on the wheel a little bit more.
Now watch how much Junior's head is bouncing around here. A couple things we haven't talked about this racetrack. Character, drivers like to call it. It's got some bumps and some bounces that you have to handle when you're driving at speed, at high speed. Jimmy Johnson's handling them pretty well right now. The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series Geico 400 at Chicagoland Speedway in Joliet, Illinois. Make sure to go to NASCAR.com for all your latest NASCAR information. Not quite 100 miles into this 400-mile race, race number 1 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. NASCAR.com/RaceBuddy has coverage live from Chicagoland Speedway today. You can follow your favorite drivers for free with 8 live camera views. Like that one from Jimmy Johnson's car. Dominant driver in the race so far. Jimmy's led most of the laps. Brad Keselowski, one of the leaders during that last exchange of pit stops, making up some ground now, lost on the round of pit stops.
Looks like they had a little hiccup on the left side. I think the left rear tire changer left the lug nut hanging, couldn't get the tire off immediately, and it cost him some time and spots, but looks like Brad's making them up quickly.
Yeah, he came back out about 15 car lengths behind this 20-car Joey Logano and the 11 of Denny Hamlin, but has disposed of them rather quickly.
Travis Kvapil had a little trouble on his pit stop that extended back out onto the racetrack and came back around to pit road with him.
And a little passenger on the left side, didn't he? Looks like the jack got hung on the jack stop. It's amazing that thing made it all the way back to pit road without coming loose, causing a caution flag, but it did. It made it all the way back.
Would you call that the violation of NASCAR's removing equipment from the box rule?
Well, they brought it back.
Still removed it. Well, Tony Stewart mentioned during the call of his pit stop by Dr. Jerry Punch, really on the charge in the opening segment of this race.
Yeah, and I watched him enter pit road, too. He was completely sideways. He came off of turn 4. I was wondering if he was going to get it slowed down in time to get inside the cone. He actually did all of that, so that all worked to his advantage and trying to drive himself up into the top 10. Battling Regan Smith here for the 11th spot right now.
Yeah, when I talked to Steve Addington this morning, he said their car, they obviously didn't qualify well, so they didn't think they had speed right off the bat, but he thought their car was going to hang in there really nice today, and it has so far.
Remember, it was this race a year ago. Tony Stewart started in 26th position and went to victory lane. He started 29th today.
He's just so good. Alan, you were talking about this racetrack and the character of it, how difficult it is. We see Jeff Gordon down here bouncing around a little bit too. Just a lot of bumps. So you think about people that have experience, and here are 2 drivers, Kyle Busch, who's driving his way up towards the top 5. Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart really able to handle these type of conditions, and it's really the kind of tracks and surfaces that they appreciate and like to race on.
Drivers like when you can find different lanes around the racetrack, search for grip for your race car to suit its handling conditions at the moment, like Jeff Gordon is doing right now.
We have absolutely killed it getting in, man. I'm out of control getting in. Therefore, we'll get it back down. Just stay with it, nice and smooth here. You're doing good.
This brings up an interesting point, Alan. We talked to Jeff today about how last week's race gave him momentum for this week. But in talking to crew chief Alan Gustafson, I said, what was a takeaway from Richmond? He said, nothing. We got to live in the here and now. We got to score more points than everybody, and we got to get to the end of this thing ahead of everybody else. So he didn't take anything. He's very objective about it, and right now, living in the moment, they've got a race car that's not to Jeff's liking.
I think one takeaway, though, is Jeff, especially Jeff, now knows that he cannot give up because they're still, this team is strong enough, deep enough to come back from just about anything, and he's going to stick in there, and he's going to stay with it. Not that he wouldn't anyway, but I think that's the takeaway.
Well, he took a chase spot away from there. I thought that's pretty good.
Well, there's your takeaway.
So Jeff Gordon, good in the first segment of the race, struggling a little bit since the pit stop, struggling all race long so far. Martin Truex Jr. in the 56 car. He's back in 20th spot right now. And Dave, they have not made a whole lot of progress.
Well, 3 places, Alan, so relatively speaking, not a lot, but he's going the right direction. They only lost 1 spot with myriad changes on that pit stop, but he did say the car is a lot better this run for Martin.
Caution called for debris off of turn number 2. And the first yellow flag of the race right at the 100-mile mark today, erasing Jimmy Johnson's lead. So all of those guys who need to work on their cars and find some speed.
Yeah, a couple of them is that 16, Greg Biffle. His car's not been good at all. And we just talked about Truex. This is going to be a good break for him to work on his.
And really, as a driver, when a race starts and goes green like that, you're kind of glad to get that too. You like to run for a little while, but now get a little bit of a break. You can think about your car and communicate with your crew about what you need. And even though they've only run 20 laps, I think with this racing surface we were talking about, Andy, everybody's looking at 4 tires.
Yeah, but this is a short run. This might be the shortest run we see today when the caution comes out, and it'll be an opportunity for some of the cars that feel like they can steal some track position. If they're going to do it all day long, right now might be the time.
Now you see the pace car has gathered up the field. Normally that would open pit lane the first time the pace car leads the field by. They're going to hold the opening of pit road for 1 lap. Eric Almirola has just been sent around the pace car back onto the lead lap. NASCAR, after further review, saying they made a mistake on the pit road penalty, assessed that 43 team, and the lap they lost serving the pass-through penalty is being given back to them now under the caution flag.
Yeah, it's not unprecedented. That happened, actually, I remember this happening to me when I was Earnhardt's crew chief at Rockingham. They said we had a lug nut missing, brought us in under green, and all of them were wrong. So they sent him back out, threw a caution, gave us our lap back.
I believe I was covering your pit that day, and when they brought the car down the pit lane,
well,
they had
you were covering it. You remember how mad Richard Childress was.
I remember how mad you were.
I was the one calm one of the bunch. But that they do what they can. If they make a mistake, they do the best they can to make it right.
But he's not going to get all the track position. He's getting back on the lead lap. But he was running in the top 5 whenever he made his pit stop.
All right, so while the field comes back around to the opening of pit lane and they work to clean up the debris in turn number 2, we ask you which driver you think will be the top finisher out of this week's top 4 qualifiers. Jimmy Johnson, Eric Almirola, Matt Kenseth, or Dale Jr. Text FAST to 34763 or go to AT&TFastestDriver.com to play. You could have a chance to win 4 Gs by playing along in today's AT&T Fastest Driver Challenge. Each week you have a chance to make your pick and see where you stack up against the rest. So everyone just on pit road, mostly in the 40 to 45 lap range. A couple of them at lap 46 and 47. Now we're at lap 67, 20 laps later. Little strategy session coming up.
Well, it's just like I said, maybe somebody will try to steal some track position. I like 4 tires if I'm one of the top 3 or 4 or 5 guys. But there'll be some people back in the pack. I mean, I'm looking at like Carl Edwards, Newman, even Harvick. Maybe some of those guys will use this as an opportunity to steal some track position. If they're ever going to do it, this is the best time.
Here they come. Dave?
You will see some 2-tire strategies right now. 7th place, Jeff Gordon, lower left. 2nd place, Casey Kane, upper left. The 5 has talked about 2 tires. 24, not sure what they're going to do. Casey's car, loose and on the splitter. They're going to make a wedge adjustment for him. Jeff's car, very loose. You heard him talk about it. They'll make a track bar adjustment for the 24. Doc?
Looking for 2 tires also in the 2 car and the 48. 2 cars are still a little too loose getting off. Can't get in the throttle. Jimmy Johnson said air pressure change, and he is down the way. Great pit stop for the 48. The 2 now going 4 tires. Left side going up on the 2 car. Still on pit road, and now here comes Brad Kay out and away.
Well, there you see the strategy. 2-tire stops being played by some. Brad Keselowski going to lose.
Tony Stewart back on pit road. They were having a vibration. They wanted to make sure the lug nuts and the tires were okay. They had made a 2 right side tire change a moment ago. Thought he had a problem with a vibration. Decided to come back in and take a look at the left side, and now they put left side tires on as he heads out as we're getting ready for 1 to go. Alan?
All right, well, he gave up 12th spot, Doc. And it's going to put Tony back probably about 28th in line as last on the lead lap. First one on 4 tires for the restart is going to be Brad Keselowski in 10th position, Doc.
Yeah, let's check in with Paul Wolf here and see exactly what happened. Paul, other leaders took 2 tires. You took 4. Why?
Well, we're still trying to tune on our car. Want to understand the changes we make. If we do that on 4, we're not going to know. And the Miller Lite Dodge has been able to work its way up through traffic pretty well today. So you know, if we've got 4 and they've got 2, I don't see an issue here.
Trying to maintain the balance. AB.
All right, Doc. Jeff Burton, the free pass. Wave arounds to get back on the lead lap. David Reagan, David Gilliland, Sam Hornish Jr., and Dave Blaney. 2 tires all the way back through Brad Keselowski in that blue deuce. Casey Kane inside of Jimmy Johnson for the race lead. Johnson chose that outside lane as his choice on the restart. He's hanging on for the moment.
He just barely got the lead down. I thought he was going to be totally confused if he lost the lead there too, because he lost it from the inside at the beginning of the race.
Jeff Gordon, 24. Clint Boyer, 15. Fifth place. Mark Martin right with him in the 55.
They were able to help Gordon on the entry to the corner. Whatever adjustment they made on the green flag pit stop really freed his car up, getting into the corner. That's where he was not happy with this car. Looks like it's much better here to start this run.
Dale Earnhardt Jr., 88. Kyle Busch, 18. That's 8th and 9th places. And up front, Casey Kane still trying to find a way to use that low lane to get around Jimmy Johnson.
Casey trying hard to get that 1 point for leading a lap. He's not willing to give it up.
Well, there used to be a day whenever you got down inside this that teammates would let somebody lead to get that. But I think that as close as this is and those points and seeing how last year's championship finished out with a tie as far as the points go, I'm sure we'll see much of that.
Yeah, I think Jimmy knows he's got to race this 5 car all the way to the end. Don't give him a point now.
All 4 Hendrick cars in the chase, all 4 in the top 10 of the race. And it's interesting you brought that point up about the single point, because Tony Stewart mentioned that, how what happened last season really kind of woke everyone up, not only to the possibilities. Okay, so you came into the chase without a win, or you barely made it into the chase, like Jeff Gordon in the 24. But you can win this championship from that position as long as you're in. And that because the thing came down to the tie and the tiebreaker, every single position and point in the finishing order is going to be important. Denny Hamlin, looking at 11, talked about how that's going to make him feel like he's got to be more aggressive on the restarts to gain every position he can through the course of the day.
Yeah, and I think that's what's going to make each of these races so interesting to the very end, because it's going to be right to that last lap, so you can cross that finish line getting the checkered flag, that you're going to have to battle for each one of those spots, whether it's racing for a lead, racing for 10th, or possibly even 15th. You need to get all you can get.
Jeff Gordon getting that last spot in last Saturday night, and says better not count him out.
Yes, I mean, I think the only way that you don't hear from us in the chase is if some of the same things that bit us earlier in the year bite us again. If we finish where we're running and where our performance level is at, then we're going to be a major threat in this thing.
I think that's an honest assessment, because the reason they were struggling to get in the chase wasn't because they didn't have a good car and a fast car. It's because of a lot of just weird circumstances, really.
Yeah, they had 3 strong races. 3 strong races. You can see here, still a little bit on the loose side, but to finish that off, and but it was just so impressive what happened. I mean, it really looked like he was out to lunch last week. Kyle Busch having a good run here, coming off of that disappointing finish last week that didn't allow him to make the chase.
That was close. Denny Hamlin looks like maybe that 2-tire change is not agreeing with his race car. He's lost a couple spots.
It may not, but I've watched some of the other cars, I mean the leaders especially, they're running some of the fastest laps they've run all day on 2 tires, so I think that's encouraging for some people that might want to try this when you have 20, 25 laps maybe on a set of lifts.
And Brad Keselowski still trying to make his way back through. Restarted 10th. He's racing with Kyle Busch for 7th there. After racing with Casey Kane for the lead for a few laps after the restart, Jimmy Johnson has settled himself back into the #1 position in the Geico 400.
Back at Chicagoland Speedway, With Jimmy Johnson out front, the 5-hour Energy Rapid Recap is going to get us caught up on what has happened so far, starting with Dale Earnhardt Jr. Rusty, he qualified 4th, but started 42nd after an engine change, and he is moving.
He is moving really good. He's making ground. He's getting forward. He's 9th on the racetrack right now. The car looks like it's handling really good. They just did a 2-tire change. He says it's upset the handling just a little bit, but it's still running really good.
We said earlier, you can't make mistakes. That goes for everyone, including Travis Kvapil. That, I think, stands as removing equipment.
Got the jack caught in the race car, and it really put him behind. And also, Greg Biffle had a slow pit stop. Really cost him a lot of spots on the racetrack. He's currently 16th.
And then there's Tony Stewart, pitted again with 1 lap to go with the vibration. Fell from 12th to 28th then.
Yeah, wanted to correct that early. Might have slid the left side tires coming in the pit. Sometimes create a little bit of a wobble, but it was good that they came in, put left side tires on it, and now he's got some a chance to get track position.
Let's go up to speed with our top 12 guys, the guys fighting for the championship. Doc, what do you got on Jimmy Johnson?
Well, Jimmy says the car with the 2 right side tire only change is tight on the bottom of the racetrack. Now, he also knows that the car gets freer as you go toward the middle and top, so that's why he tends to have moved his lane up toward the middle. You see, middle of the track, and the farther up he goes, the freer the car can get, according to the driver. Right now, just tight on the bottom. Dave.
Casey Kane has not led a lap yet today, needs that valuable bonus point. Right now, he's not quite within reach of Jimmy. Hasn't said anything since the restart, but that's probably good news. The car was on the splitter the last run. A 2-tire change and an adjustment should have helped that a little bit. As for Jeff Gordon, a good pickup from the restart. He is a position up where he was. You heard him say still too loose, though. The follow was, help you at all? And Jeff said slightly, so they've still got some ways to go on the 24. Doc?
Denny Hamlin, who began today as our points leader, came in, took 2 right side tires, wedge out. He said it was loose in, tight in the center. And now Denny says we are way, way too tight on 2 right side tires only. I'll have to make a significant adjustment on the next stop. Now behind him, Brad Keselowski. We told you about the 4-tire change. It was all about balance. And Paul Wolf had said, I've got to keep the car tight enough for Brad to be able to get in the throttle coming up off the corner and stay there. He said, right now, Brad says, I'm just way too free using the throttle. I can't get in it and stay on the throttle and the gas coming off. Vince.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. has been on a march forward. He started 42nd today, had to go to the back because of that engine change. He's up to 9th. They went with right side tires only on that last stop, but Jr. doesn't like it.
Tight. 2 tires and tight to begin with. Ain't gonna work out, buddy. Therefore, tight. Therefore, too tight. And then we took 2 tires, which tightens it up more. Just think about it. I freed it up some, not enough. Go ahead and close your white switch, see if it helps it turn a little.
Steve Letarte also made a wedge adjustment on that first pit stop, so Junior still going forward, though, plus 33. Now, the 17 of Matt Kenseth was wicked loose in and off, and they made big changes on that last pit stop. They pulled a shim out of the left front, went down on the track bar, big air pressure adjustments, 4 tires. Matt said, let's take the big changes now because it's got to be better for the long run. Jamie?
Clint Boyer working with the new spotter this weekend, and Brett Grip, as far as the car, though, he said it's been tail happy. They've worked on it, and now he says it's getting loose once again. He's taken the drive away, and that was a 2-tire stop as well. He needs more changes on the next stop. Behind that, Greg Biffle, you guys have documented it, been struggling with this car all weekend long. This morning, wholesale changes to try to make it better. That wasn't the case so far today. A spring rubber in, shim out, wedge, track bar, it's still not getting the job done. Dave?
Yeah, the last run, Martin Truex called his car way better. Not great, but way better. They took 4 tires on the last stop, gave up some positions. Since the restart, he's picked up 5 on the track. The car's still a little tight, but he's going the right way. Vince?
Kevin Harvick started 35th today. He's up to 18th, but he's been fighting a loose race car. Gil Martin, the crew chief's been trying to tighten him up, but they're just not there yet. Kevin, on his last radio transmission, said loose off the corner as soon as I get back on the gas. They're going to work on it. Still a long way to go. Doc?
And back to Tony Stewart, the defending champion. 2 right side tires, came in 2 laps later, 2 left side tires, vibration. And he also wanted to look at something on the right front of the car. Stewart said, I'm okay now, but I just got to get some help from upstairs and all around to get through some of this traffic. I'll get back there. It's just going to take me a while. So Stewart now trying to work his way back toward the top 15. Nicole?
Talking earlier about Dale Earnhardt Jr. on the move, he just got by Denny Hamlin and is now in 8th on the track. Meanwhile, his teammate, Jimmy Johnson, out front. And the car he's using today, Rusty, was the car he used in Dover, the car he used in Indianapolis. Both races, he happened to dominate and win.
And you know, I've been really big on this car, Nicole. In fact, they took this car, I heard, and kind of saved it to start the chase with. This car just blew away the competition in Indianapolis and won Dover, like you said. And it's absolutely outrunning the field right now again. Tell you what, Brad, this car is so good. If I was him and he makes it through the day, I'd wash it off and clean it up and bring it right back.
Consistently strong, Rusty. He is really big on a dominating performance right now. Has led 90 of 96 laps. Casey Kane, though, seems to have a little bit of something for him, but no one else thus far in the field.
And this is what happens when you start on the pole. You can control the race. This is what the 48 is good at. They know they want to capitalize on getting that pole position, get out in the lead, and make everyone else follow their pace.
97 laps complete at Chicagoland, but you know what happens? We still have 170 to go. We'll see how Chase race number 1 plays out. We're at Chicagoland Speedway, and we'll have more in just a few minutes.
Back live, Geico 400, Chicagoland Speedway. Caution is out for the second time. For the second time, it's for debris. Last time in turn 2, this time in turn number 3. Puts the pace car in front of the field, gives Sam Hornets Jr. the free pass back onto the lead lap, and gives the leaders another opportunity to head for pit road.
A lot of teams took 2 tires the last time. Expect those guys to take 4.
Just past 150 miles into the race. Here they come, Vince.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. took 2 tires last time, just as you said. They'll take 4 right now. No other changes. Junior likes it. Dave.
5 car of Casey Kane, 2nd place right now. They'll take a round down on the track bar. Car is still loose, but it is handling well. Doc.
Brad Keselowski says the car really tight overall on entry and exit. They made it 4 tire change last time. Watch and see if they go with 2 this time. Thinking about it, below him, Jimmy Johnson will come in and make a chassis adjustment, 4 tires. Jimmy said grip level is still an issue, still free entering and free off. Chassis adjustment, slight air pressure. Johnson's away.
Couple of 2 tire stops in there.
Not nearly as many as we saw the last time.
But Kevin Harvick's team, most notably, going for a track position grab to get him up toward the front. Back for the restart in a minute. Aerial coverage provided by Goodyear from pit lane to victory lane. Every NASCAR driver counts on Goodyear tires. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. What a beautiful day to be flying around overhead Chicagoland Speedway today for the Geico 400. Beautiful day to be in the grandstand, too. Asked you to tweet your seats. Some folks at the racetrack sent us a snapshot of where they're going to watch the race from.
8 and 6, got a good seat.
But of course, we like it when your seat is there in front of the television as well. Glad to have you at the track. Really glad you're watching here on ESPN. And as you watch the race today, we remind you that our NASCAR Nonstop coverage comes up during the second half of today's race, presented by Sprint. Set to go for the restart. 2 tires for Brad Keselowski, the leader. 2 tires for Kevin Harvick, lined up 4th. Jimmy Johnson on the outside lane, the man who's dominated the race so far. Also 2 tires for Kurt Busch in that red 51 car up into the lead pack as Keselowski clears Johnson and hangs on to that number 1 spot.
So I heard Paul Wolf say he didn't want to put 2 tires on the last time because he wanted to see what the adjustments were doing to the car. This time he's decided to experiment a little bit to see how it works out. So far, so good.
Well, they know what their adjustments did. Now they want to see what 2 tires is going to do for later in this day.
Tony Stewart, 14. Mark Martin, 55. Jeff Gordon, 24. Clint Boyer, 15. 12th place on back.
Tony Stewart, one of those drivers, really glad to see a caution there as he goes all the way to the apron. That's not out of bounds here. He was needing to get some track position back. He's got a fast race car. Riding with Jeff Gordon, he was needing to make some adjustments on his car. He'd started to fall back a little bit. Still was fighting a very loose condition.
Greg Biffle's been struggling with that all race long, and that 16 all weekend long for that matter.
Yeah, we watched him save it a few times Friday in practice. Hopefully they're getting it tightened up for Biffle. We know he likes to race on this type of track, go fast.
Progress on Jeff Gordon's car, Dave?
He has made it, Alan. If we take a look at the replay before the pit stop, see the upper left-hand corner of his grill opening on the bottom of the car there. That came off during the pit stop, and it's amazing the offending pieces of trash that make these cars loose when they're on there. It's never like a big 8.5, 11 piece of notebook paper. It's always some piece of tissue or plastic or something like this.
Wow. Well, Jeff running in 11th place at the moment with Greg Biffle right behind him in 12th position. How about some progress, a progress update on that 16 car, Jamie?
Well, a little bit, Alan, going in the right direction toward the end of the last run. He said it's actually better. Greg making all the calls from the seat, telling him exactly what changes he wants. On the last stop, he said, let's tighten it up and see what happens. 2 rounds down on the track bar and tires was it. He's going to see if this will help that loose car he's been fighting all day.
All right, Jamie, thanks. Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, 11 and 29. Remember, Harvick restarted 4th. He just gave up 6th to Hamlin.
Yeah, I'm going to watch this 29 throughout this run. He'd been struggling before, and I know what they were trying to do is get some better air with this race car, but it didn't seem like the car was driving very good before then. Put 2 tires on a car that's already ill handling can make it a handful.
Stewart's got a good car. I'm kind of surprised he didn't take 2 tires that last round after that little hiccup they had, and they made that extra pit stop on the caution before. I think he thinks he's got a good enough car that if they keep 4 tires on it all day, he can drive it to the front.
And just past 150 miles of today's Geico 400, race number 1 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup here at Chicagoland Speedway. Our Ram race rundown. Brad Keselowski, the leader, after taking just right side tires on his last pit stop with that car right behind him. Jimmy Johnson in the 48 has done most of the leading so far in this race. Dale Earnhardt Jr. started at the back of the field. After an engine change, he's charged all the way up into the top 10, though slipping back a little bit in this run. And that's how they run, but still before halfway in race number 1 of the chase. So Keselowski hanging on to that top spot over Johnson for now, Doc.
Exactly. They just told Brad, they said, you're better than Jimmy Johnson in 1 and 2, but he's better than you in 3 and 4. And Brad said, well, help me out. Tell me what he's doing. Let's listen into the radio.
Seems like 1 and 2, you're stronger than the 48. He's a little stronger 3 and 4. Maintaining equal distance. Let me know when he stops front of the middle lane. And 4, still on the bottom.
And so what they're telling Brad, they're saying Jimmy basically is arcing it in later in 3 than he is. And when he arcs it in later, he's beating you, and that's where you're losing time. So Brad is listening to the spotter, watching what Jimmy Johnson is doing in his mirror, and trying to learn. Guys?
Yeah, you think that'd be easy to fix, be able to arc, just go ahead and change your line to arc it in the corner a little bit more. But it's not that easy. Most of the time you have a car that won't be able to do that without spinning out. In other words, it's not tight enough into the corner to be able to arc it in. So I think that's one thing Chad and Jimmy have done a good job of, is getting their car where it'll arc in the corner and still be free enough through the center of the corner.
Jimmy Johnson just pestering Brad right now.
Yeah, might be about now that his spotter's telling him he's moved up. So.
Yeah.
But really not gaining that much. You can see as he moves up and Brad stays towards the bottom, because he's going to stay on the bottom this time. Brad anticipating him going to the middle, trying to take some of that air away from Jimmy's nose.
It looks like maybe Brad got a little better run off the corner with that line.
3 times a winner so far this season. Is he ready to be NASCAR Sprint Cup Series champion? A lot of racing between now and that final lap of the season in which to find that out. There's the race to the lead in the Geico 400 at Chicagoland Speedway. Brad Keselowski easing away just a little bit from Jimmy Johnson, the number 2 driver. We take an inside look and get unlimited access to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by the NASCAR Sprint Cup mobile app and truly unlimited data on the Sprint Network. Jimmy Johnson has by far led the most laps in this race. That's 96 out of 123 to be specific. Fastest 4-tire pit stop today by the man who's made up a lot of ground from the back of the pack, Dale Earnhardt Jr., an 11.8 for Junior's team. Get unlimited access to NASCAR with live in-car audio and real-time stats on the NASCAR Sprint Cup mobile Android app, only from Sprint. Get the app and learn more about Sprint's truly unlimited data plan at sprint.com/speed. Junior slipping back a little bit in this latest run of the race.
Yeah, he made a pit stop, lost quite a few spots on that, like 5 spots, and then went backwards from there. He's starting to actually work his way back up.
Now, moving well. 2 guys not in the chase, running in 3rd, check that, in 4th and 5th positions at the moment. Both driving for Joe Gibbs Racing. Joey Logano, 20, Kyle Busch, 18.
Yeah, both running very well in front of their teammate that is in the chase, Denny Hamlin, which could be a good thing if they'll share anything that they're doing with Denny Hamlin, or it could be a detriment. That's 2 spots to Denny Hamlin and 2 points that he might could use during this, but still a long way to go. But these 2 cars of Logano and Kyle Busch have been very strong all day long.
After what happened last Saturday night in Richmond, and the comments made afterward with crew chief Dave Rogers for Kyle Busch saying he messed it up, it was his fault. Can this team regroup and contend and win races for the rest of this season and effectively go forward?
Well, anytime you got Kyle Busch behind the wheel, you got a chance to win. I think they'll at least be in contention to win some races and possibly win a few. I don't think they're done.
How about the 18, Dave?
Well, for crew chief Dave Rogers, it was tough, Alan. You just really started it off there. I asked him how he recovered this week and what he said to the team. He said, I talked to folks individually, but on Wednesday, I got everybody together. And I told them, listen, I made a mistake. Does anybody have anything they want to air out right now? He said they looked at me like I was crazy and said, no, we didn't lose our chase race at the Richmond race. We had other problems during the year. So they didn't lay it all on Dave right there, even though he admits the mistake. They are recovering, and they are fast this weekend. As for Joey Logano, what a great weekend. A top 10 qualifying effort, and he stayed there all day. In fact, during that first round of green flag stops, his crew picked him up 2 positions. Right now, the car a little bit tight in the center. That's what it's been most of the afternoon.
Hey, Andy, I'll have to say, you as a former crew chief, Ray down in the pit studio, you're in the tough spot. You have to make decisions and calls and do it quickly sometimes, but you probably far outweighed in making the good calls versus some of those that you regretted later on, and that's just going to happen.
Yeah, but you got to own every one of them.
That's right.
It is tough, but when we all sit down, you're the guy that raised your hand and say, I want to be the guy making the calls. I want to be the crew chief, and that's just the way it goes.
We talked about Dale Earnhardt Jr. losing a couple spots on pit road and then struggling a little bit since the restart. Vince?
You know, it's interesting, though. He has not complained about the race car at all. In fact, prior to that last pit stop, he said it's really pretty good. He's had a moment or 2 when he got up out of the groove, but still no major concerns or complaints for the 88 of Dale Jr. They put 4 tires on it, didn't make any changes that last stop. Now, the 29, the same cannot be said. Kevin Harvick, they have been battling loose all day. They went with 2 tires on that last stop with a wedge adjustment also, and Kevin says that was not the answer. It is as loose as it has been all day long. Harvick, 15th. He's got his hands full right now.
Vince, thanks. Up front, closing up. While Junior and Greg Biffle race for 13th spot with Kevin Harvick right there.
Yeah, and I know this is not the day Greg Biffle was looking to get this chase started. He was very confident coming that They had cars and a team that was going to come here and challenge to win and put themselves in first and take the chase from there.
And this kind of racetrack has been a strong suit for that team this year. One at Texas Motor Speedway, 1.5 miles. One at Michigan Speedway, a 2-mile, very fast track. But so far today, Biffle has struggled in that 16 car. So there's the lead. Bobble there for the leader, Brad Keselowski.
Yeah, you can see that gap close up right there. Brad had pulled away quite a bit, but this might be to the point that the 2 tires versus the 4 tires a little bit different.
Listen, you got to get that air out. You got to get the right rear propped up. Yes, sir.
Tony Stewart.
Yeah, he's just trying to give Addington some information to make this car better, but I'll tell you what, it's really good right now. He's probably got one of the best 2 or 3 cars on the racetrack.
And closing for the lead. Remember last pit stop, Brad Keselowski just took right side tires. Jimmy Johnson with 4. TJ Bell, another lap down there in the 32 car. 7th place here. Jeff Gordon by Denny Hamlin. We have just crossed halfway in today's Geico 400. That means it's time for us to go NASCAR nonstop. Presented by Sprint. Haven't missed a minute of this great race for the lead. Brad Keselowski finding a way to hold off Jimmy Johnson, despite Jimmy having fresher left side tires than Brad when they last pitted at lap 102.
That's one of the things I love about Brad Keselowski is the way he can hang tough. But things aren't just perfect. He's got 2 tires. Jimmy's got 4.
and Jimmy's led most of the laps today, but he's not going to just give it up, lay over and give him the spot. He's going to race him absolutely as hard as he can.
You know, it's smart enough to know that if he gets in the middle of the racetrack there and he gives Jimmy the bottom, Jimmy's car's a little on the free side too. It's going to be very difficult for Jimmy to make that pass on this 2 car. But Brad Keselowski's not only a driver, he's a thinker too, Doc.
You're exactly right, DJ. They keep telling Brad where Jimmy is really beating you is turn 3. Said, I won't tell you again, Brad, but he's really getting in turn 3. And Brad said, guys, not much I can do right now. I'm really 3 in and 3 off. And by the way, because of taking only 2 right side tires, Brad's got to pit a little bit earlier. They're about a gallon short on getting in fuel. Get it full.
Doc, thanks. Leaders all last in, as I said a minute ago, at lap 102. So we're going to start to see them hit pit road very, very shortly. Kurt Busch, one of the guys that took just right side tires on his previous pit stop.
Yeah, his car held on very well. Dale Jr. just had gotten by, so Kurt Busch was pretty good handling race car.
Yeah, short pit here is not a bad move strategy-wise either.
Pretty fascinating to watch. You were talking about that line that Brad chose, the different line, and giving Jimmy the bottom. And how these drivers adapt to conditions and circumstances and their competition over the course of a long afternoon of racing.
Brad, a pretty happy man today with his truck team, taking the win last night at Iowa Speedway with 18-year-old Ryan Blaney getting the win.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool that Brad's giving young drivers a chance like he got when Dale Jr. hired him and to drive a nationwide car and kind of made his career, trying to pay it forward.
See right there, just the difficulty Jimmy Johnson has in trying to complete the pass. He drives it in a little bit further, has a little bit more grip right there to start with, but not able to get off the corner.
Mark Martin's in, Doc.
Already changed right side tires. They'll change left side tires. Mark's in the car. Still a bit loose. Still a bit of a handle. They were going to go down on the track bar. He's down and away.
And we've also seen Jamie McMurray on and off pit road early in this cycle of pit stops. Something to watch for here. Getting onto this pit road under green flag conditions can be a handful for these drivers behind the wheel. Vince?
The 78 of Regan Smith, it is just wicked loose off. Air pressure adjustment, 4 tires. Hoping he gets better with that air pressure adjustment. Todd Berrier calling the shots. The 88 of Dale Earnhardt Jr. started to go away from him on that run. The rear end too loose. It's an air pressure adjustment, 4 tires. No chassis adjustment at this point for the 88. Just a 4-tire change for Dale Earnhardt Jr. The 29 of Kevin Harvick, well, we told you throughout the course of the day how loose they have been, and they've battled it all afternoon long, still dealing with it. Track bar and air pressure with 4 tires. Dave?
Truex's car still plowing. They make a shock adjustment. They also make put a spring rubber into the right rear to try to get that one to turn. Doc?
You heard Tony Stewart say, got to get the air out, guys. Got to get the air out. Got to get the right rear propped up. Although he told him a minute ago, the longer we run, the better this car gets. Stewart comes in after running 6, almost in the top 5. It'll be 4 tires for smoke, air pressure change on the left side. Let's go to Jamie.
And the work continues on the 16 for Greg Biffle, saying he wants to go back on those changes a little bit. There's caution on the track as Greg Biffle completes his pit stop here.
Got a car on the wall in turn number 2. It's Casey Mears.
Roll 2, halfway down the back.
Caution in the middle of a series.
Killed. Right front's gone. Probably bent the clip. We go to the garage. Go straight to the garage.
Caution in the middle of a series of green flag pit stops. And that's a pretty good looking hit for Casey Mears.
See, already into the wall. You see it here, but boy, you're right now. Kind of flattened that right side pretty good.
He was in 26th place, a lap down.
I believe Kyle Busch is going to be the driver that's going to come out of this in the best shape on the lead lap because he made his pit stop. He'll be able to stay out there.
Well, he only got 2 tires, though. I was watching to see if they would get 4 while they were in. They only got 2 and got out to stay on the lead lap, so he may want to come back and get those left.
I'm sorry, I didn't see that. And I saw him get that, and I was looking to see where the leader was and didn't see him complete that.
Yeah, if he could have gotten forward and gotten out, that would have put him in the catbird seat for sure.
But that's still going to be better for him than these other drivers that are going to have to take the wave around for sure.
Keselowski, Johnson, Kane, Gordon, Newman, Hornish, and Edwards had not pitted before the yellow flag came out. Pit road is open here, and we should see those drivers as takers. Dave?
4th, Gordon. 3rd, Kane. Jeff Gordon's car right now loose in 1 and 2, tight in the center of 3 and 4. Wasn't sure what he wanted to suggest to crew chief Gustafson, but they will do a wedge adjustment and air pressure. For Casey Kane, it is just a little bit loose in and off right now for him. Doc?
And Brad Keselowski said, put the air back in the left rear, Paul. Talking about Paul Wolf, his crew chief, said we're good, but we're a little loose in and loose off. They praised him how well he ran on 2 tires only. Bottom of your screen, 48 car, 4 tires. Jimmy said, guys, you got to tighten me up. That means track bar down, left rear, and he's down and away.
And Kyle Busch did come back down the pit lane to get that other set of tires.
Yeah, you can see he gained a few spots though by only having to get in the 2, and Jimmy Johnson gets the lead off pit road.
Caution for just the 3rd time in the Geico 400 at Chicagoland Speedway.
Back at race one of the Chase at Chicagoland Speedway, 151 laps complete, but the racing continues tonight on the ESPN family of networks. The O'Reilly Auto Parts NHRA Nationals, 8:30 Eastern on ESPN2. Then next weekend, the NASCAR Nationwide Series is at Kentucky, 3:30 Eastern on Saturday, and the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, still Sylvania 300 at New Hampshire, 1 o'clock Eastern on Sunday, Chase race number 2. Jimmy Johnson is out front in this one, but a lot of expectations on Michael Waltrip Racing coming into this, their first ever chase with their 2 drivers, Clint Boyer and Martin Truex Jr. That said, struggling a little bit today.
Yeah, they really are. They're not up there where they need to be right now, Cole. 14th and 21st for those 2 drivers. But they got 115 laps to go right now. There's plenty of time for them to try to get these cars handling better, but they better get on it pretty quick. Do some strategy work too. Maybe 2 right side tires, Brad, to get them some track position. They got to get those cars up there now.
Yeah, they really do, especially Martin Truex. He's really struggled today, been as far back as the mid-20s and just hasn't been able to go forward. Clint's been up and down, but Mark Martin's been pretty good at times.
That's the thing. The one driver that isn't in the chase is outperforming the drivers that are in the chase.
And it's a good thing for the guys in the chase because, you know, looking through the lap times as the field as we've been watching, they're really close.
Yes,
so
they are.
Mark Martin might be able to give those guys a little bit of information that can help them tune those cars just a little bit up, because a little bit of time will go a long way in this race.
And as you can see, Marty Smith has joined us in the pit studio, keeping a chase chatter, the pulse on what you're saying as you're watching this race. And I know a lot of people are impressed by something we were impressed with last week, Jeff Gordon's aggression out there.
Indeed, and of course he starts tied with Martin Truex, a Michael Waltrip Racing driver with no points entering this thing as it pertains to the chase standings. And yes, many people are discussing on Twitter right now Gordon's aggression, and to me it's very akin to what we saw last season with Tony Stewart. He's basically playing with house money, and Gordon said this week, I can promise you that's what got us here, and that's what's going to win us this championship. He's going to maintain that very aggressive philosophy throughout this chase. And Ray, I know you've been with Jeff from the beginning. You understand how his mind works as a competitor. What do you see from him right now?
Well, I see a little bit of that old Jeff Gordon that always had reserve, and Brad and I have talked about this before. Big players step up. They keep something in reserve, and I've seen that out of Jeff Gordon. He's reached down, relying on that experience. I'm seeing the Jeff Gordon of the 90s where he can take a 5th place car and get it to the front. Allen's been doing a good job giving him better than a 5th place car. I really think these guys are going to be a threat.
He's definitely stepped up his aggression. You see him sneak in here earlier today, trying to wrap that shirt around my neck and choke me with it. He's definitely stepped it up. But
He was just serving you your plate of crow.
Imagine if he didn't have all that drag from that caterpillar on his lip.
He really looks good. Been really, really strong. And Jeff, it's interesting to listen to him because his feedback is incredible. He really can send his race team towards a certain area of that race car. And they got a lot of confidence right now, guys, and they look really, really tough.
Well, Brad, right now they're running fourth and are looking good out there. They got to stay consistent, though. That's the biggest thing I worry about Jeff Gordon. Look, I don't worry about the speed. He had the consistency problem earlier in the year, and that's one thing that cannot sneak back up on Jeff Gordon right now and cause a big issue, because that'll get him in trouble. Look, we know he's a good enough driver. We know he's got the same equipment as Jimmy Johnson. He's just got to use the best of his ability right now and don't make mistakes and stay consistent. Right now, I'm seeing consistency.
It's what we said earlier. It's hard to keep that momentum. It's been up and down for a lot of drivers this season. With 113 to go, Alan, we'll see who can keep the momentum here in Chicagoland.
We sure will. It has been Jimmy Johnson and Brad Keselowski for this latest stretch of the race, Nicole, and they will be doubled up for the restart here in about 3/4 of a lap. Fresh off the wire, served by KFC. Johnson has led the most laps today, wrapping up just the third caution of this race. And the big story on this one, 22 drivers have just taken a wave around, 15 of them to get back on the lead lap. All those cars coming charging up behind the pack. They include Tony Stewart, Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, Matt Kenseth, Clint Boyer, Mark Martin, Greg Biffle, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Kurt Busch, Paul Menard, Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex, a lot of chasers there, Eric Almirola, Regan Smith, and Trevor Bayne, and those are just the guys to get back on the lead lap.
Good job, Alan. Getting all those in.
Caution coming out in the middle of the series of green flag pit stops. Adding a lap to the caution to allow the restart order to be squared away. Check this out. Jimmy Johnson's led 100 laps today. He's led 100 laps in 15 prior chase races. He's 12 for 15 as far as wins are concerned.
That's bad news for the rest of them.
Yeah, that's pretty good average, I'd say.
Now, on the counter to that, this is one of the very few racetracks on the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series schedule currently where Jimmy Johnson's never won.
I think that makes it even more dangerous.
While we were in NASCAR Nonstop, you saw Marcos Ambrose with some troubles on the pit lane. Jamie, what's up with the 9?
Well, he's working with the new crew chief, Mike Ford, and they thought he had an electrical issue, so they brought him in. You saw the guys jump in the car and change the ECU. Well, it doesn't seem to be the problem. The Roush Yates engineers are down here trying to look at all their data, trying to figure out and diagnose what the problem is. So right now, they're not so sure.
Yeah, I mean, this is just one of the things that's been a little bit aggravating with this system. It's not the way, you can't fix it in a traditional manner, what they've been able to do before. They've got to get dig in a little deeper, use the engineers to figure it out.
Electronic fuel injection new to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series for 2012, really with just a couple of exceptions, a non-story.
Yeah, that has been really good. It's been very, very reliable, but the ones that have had problems, it's kind of makes you pull your hair out.
Looks like they might have spotted a piece of debris on the track, so they're going to hold off the restart for another lap. Debris cleaned up, restart order lined up, and coming to the green. In the Geico 400 at Chicagoland Speedway, just shy of 250 miles in the race. Jimmy Johnson, 48, Brad Keselowski, 2. They've done a lot of the leading today. Remember that all those cars I called out taking a wave around to get back on the lead lap, they have to restart behind all the cars that are a lap down. So a lot of traffic for them to work their way through to catch up to people like Casey Kane and Jeff Gordon, who are racing for 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, Ryan Newman shot by them up in that 3rd spot on that restart.
Sam Hornish Jr., remember, had a pit road speeding penalty on a green flag stop earlier in that 22. Got a wave around, had things break his way in this last little exchange of pit stops and caution flags. He's in 6th spot, just ahead of Kyle Busch in the 18.
Yeah, right behind them you see the 31 of Jeff Burton. He's actually the first car 1 lap down, so he's racing hard to stay there in case the caution comes out.
He's in 25th place. Oh, look at this.
Oh, yeah, it's been this way. They came by the start-finish line a while ago, 3 wide down the apron.
You mean like that?
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, you get such a huge effect with the draft here. Couple cars get side by side. Take advantage of that area. You go where you can.
Kurt Busch in the 51, trying to make a move to make up some ground. He is one of the cars that's on the lead lap. Trevor Bayne, 21, is the last car on the lead lap. Danica Patrick in the 10, 28th place. The third, make it fourth car, 1 lap down. Now, Tony Stewart has worked his way clear of some of the lap traffic, and he's trying to join this fight for 6th place between Hornish 22 and Kyle Busch in the 18.
Well, Sam Morris done a really good job in the 22 car. Opportunities he's gotten. Been very solid.
Talking to his crew chief Todd Gordon this morning down in the garage, he feels like they've also been able to now start helping Brad Keselowski, because as they've developed a notebook with Sam, they find that the feedback he's giving on setups is very translatable to what Brad Keselowski gives.
And one reason that works good too is because they can go out there and experiment with a few things, and if it really works for Sam on his 22, then it can cross over and help Brad. So I think they're in a different position by not being in the chase. They can try a lot of stuff. Matter of fact, I saw some things they were trying here Friday that were a little bit out of the box, that if it works for them, they can also transfer that over to Brad Keselowski's car.
Denny Hamlin, Dale Earnhardt Jr. This is 11th and 12th place. Clint Boyer in the 15 and 10th, just in front of them. Some of the guys that got caught out in that last cycle of pit stops. Pitting under the green just before the yellow flag came out. They had to stay on the racetrack, get between the pace car and the race leader, who stopped under yellow, and then get waved by the pace car before the restart. So the leader was the first car behind the pace car, and that's the wave around essentially.
Well, that wave around rule's really helped a lot, because now you can go ahead and make that decision to short pit without having too big a consequence. You won't be caught down a lap for a long time. You just have to take this wave around. You lose a little bit of track position, but the upside is that if the caution does not come out, you can gain some track time by short pitting.
It used to be that caution in the middle of a series of green flag pit stops was a disaster. Not so much anymore. Enter now for a chance to win a Dale Earnhardt Jr. personalized Silverado, a Texas Motor Speedway race weekend, and a meet and greet with Dale Earnhardt Jr. Visit winyourchevy.com now to enter. Jr. trying to chase down Joey Logano. Joey running in 12th spot. Again, was up there 3rd, 4th places before pitting under the green just before the caution came out.
Yeah, that shuffled a lot of things around, and just been keeping my eye on the car that I've seen falling back that was up in the top 10 for much of the day. That's Matt Kenseth, and he is way back, and there's a lot of lap cars that
I think it fell off when we were doing the wave around, because I felt something at the start-finish line. Bounce, I don't know what it was. Must have been a shock. I don't know which side it was.
It sounds like he's got a mechanical problem with the chassis somewhere.
He's got some kind of problem, because he's just continued to fall back.
All right, this might explain this, because when I talked about them adding laps of caution to send a cleanup truck out, the report was it was a shock absorber that they picked up down here by the start-finish line, and there you see something coming either out from under or being run over by the 17
That's
car.
That's definitely a shock. Absolutely. That's not good. I don't know how he's able to go at all. Vince, how's this affecting the handling of that car?
Well, can you imagine? Yeah. He said that he thought maybe they were on the bump stop initially, and he said it really is hitting hard on the right side, and maybe we get an understanding why. Definitely not handling, and they're talking about trying to get in and get that thing taken care of.
I think it gives him the trophy for how he's handled it so far driving.
I believe they found a shock out laying on pit on a racetrack. Okay, yeah, that's probably mine.
Well, so Matt restarted 12th. He's now in 24th and hoping for another caution sometime soon. because you're going to need that shock, and you're going to need a caution to replace it. Casey Kane, 5, trying to take third from Ryan Newman in the 39.
Casey got a good car. He actually, that last long run we had, he ran down 48 in the 2 car racing for the lead. He's closed that gap on him quite a bit in that long run there, right?
Yeah, he's got a good car. It's just not what the 48 and the 2 seem to have the 2 best cars with.
Start checking the tires. These ones are shaking like crazy. The last that was a little bit. All wheel balance, you know. Terrible. Copy that, man. Copy that.
Huh. Well, shaken or not, he's gone around Ryan Newman for 3rd spot, and he's in range to see the top 2. Past 150 miles, Jimmy Johnson leads. We go NASCAR nonstop, presented by Sprint. Well, as you have been watching in NASCAR nonstop, leader Jimmy Johnson has picked up a passenger on the grill opening of that Chevy.
A pretty good piece there, too.
Not that these cars have very spacious grill openings to keep the engine temperature in range where Chad Knaus, the crew chief, might want it. Anything on the radio there, Doc?
Nothing on the radio. They're talking about fuel mileage a little bit here with Jimmy, and basically Jimmy backing off a little bit here, but they said nothing else aside that. They told Jimmy you're 7 laps shy on fuel, and they've also told him they think the 2 car is 5 laps short. That's after one more stop, that is. So Jimmy was backing down and said the 2 cars backing down, maybe we should too, but nothing else besides that.
Yeah, what they're talking about, they're a few laps short, 5 and 7 laps short of making one more pit stop. They still can't make it all the way on the load of fuel they have, but they're still looking forward to the end of the race.
And this is a driver and team that hasn't had a lot of success in trying to stretch their fuel mileage over the years. Talk about why he hadn't won here. I think that's happened a time or two.
Yeah. Jimmy, one of a handful of drivers that ran out at the white flag in this race a year ago and coasted around the last lap.
Yeah, that car right there, the 2 car, though, probably gets the best mileage of any of these cars. So if it comes down to a fuel mileage race, look for that one to do the best.
And our aerial coverage of chase race number 1 today, provided by Goodyear. From pit lane to victory lane, every NASCAR driver counts on Goodyear tires. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. And what a spectacular Sunday it is in the Chicago area today. Won't have to worry about the weather on Monday Night Football. This week, countdown is by Applebee's at 6:30 on Monday. Then at 8:30, Peyton Manning makes his Monday Night Football debut with the Broncos when they go on the road in the Georgia Dome to face the Falcons. New up-tempo offense led by Matt Ryan. Monday Night Football, Broncos-Falcons, tomorrow at 8:30 on ESPN.
I think the Falcons put up about 40 last week to start their season off. So
Manning looked good. Manning looked good in his game.
Be a good game. Well, there's the race for the lead. Looking ahead from second to first. Looks like that gap's closing just ever so slightly.
Yeah, we heard Doc say that they were in fuel conservation mode, so maybe Jimmy's backing off a little bit.
Yeah, as you pointed out, he's got one of the masters behind him, so I think Brad Keselowski's just sitting there pretty happy where he's at.
Matt Kenseth, now the last car on the lead lap, in 24th position. Not shocking, considering the situation we've been following with this 17 car, Vince.
I think that's wrong, Alan. Yeah, not shocking at all. There's the shock. Okay, now here's the situation. They have lost the right front shock in that car. Jimmy Finnick, the crew chief, told Matt that they believe the top eyelet on the shock broke. So they're going to have to come in and replace that right front shock. Not sure how much other damage might have been done on that right front, but they're preparing to replace that right front shock as soon as possible. But he restarted 12th, Matt did. He's now running 24th.
Okay, well, hang on a bit second here. Sure, we got a lot falling off lately.
Well, one thing that I see there, that I agree with Jimmy Finnick. I think that the top shock mount on the shock itself is actually what failed. The problem is it probably fell out from the top and then ripped it from the bottom. So I think that's one unknown is what does the bottom shock mount look like, and it might not be easy to replace that.
So until they get that car on the pit lane and get that right front tire off, they're not going to know exactly what they're facing.
Exactly. Yep.
Well, Jimmy Johnson, looks like that grill is a lot cleaner than it was.
Grill is nice and clean, it looks like.
Oh, I wonder how he did that.
I think we'll get to see right here. You turn your fan off, get up behind. If the air itself doesn't take it off, then you run up on the bumper.
Bump it off.
And brush it off.
Landon Castle in the 83.
I'm sure Landon was probably thinking, I've given you plenty of racetrack here. What's the deal?
Yeah. Jimmy Johnson, Brad Keselowski, 1 and 2, 3.5 seconds ahead of third place Casey Kane. As you saw during NASCAR Nonstop, a hard crash for Jeff Gordon. He is unbuckling back in the garage area while the leaders come to pit road for caution flag stops. Dave?
Kyle Busch gives up the 4th position. His car a little snug. They will adjust for that. You see him on the upper left. Below him, Casey Kane still hasn't led a lap today. His 3rd place car will get 2 tires. Slight adjustment, Doc.
Talking about 2 for the 2 car because they got to make it on one more stop. They will take this 2 tires. He's down and away. 4 tires for Jimmy Johnson. And he will be beat off pit road by the 2 car of Brad Keselowski.
A little strategy session there. Six taking just right side tires. Now Jeff Gordon running in 4th position, sails off into turn 1 and kept sailing into the outside wall. You see Jeff is out of the car and okay, basically.
Yeah, Jeff's having a great run, but right there you can see just locked up the front tires, the throttle hung. That's usually a bad deal.
There's not a worse feeling as a driver to barrel off in the corner, get out of the throttle, and the car not slow down.
There are some safeguards that are built into the electronic fuel injection just for that. It may be why it wasn't any worse than it was. Once that thing hangs, there's just
stuck, guys. We're done.
Not
what
enough
happened?
brake.
The throttle's stuck.
That's a hard hit.
Hard hit.
So all the momentum Jeff Gordon carried from that great run into the chase at Richmond last Saturday night. And now he's got a very heavily damaged race car here in Chicagoland. Matt Kenseth, the caution, perhaps a break for the 17 team and an opportunity to make repairs. Depending, like you talked about a few minutes ago, Andy, on what they find under the hood of that car. We'll keep an eye on it. See how they make out trying to replace that right front shock as we go NASCAR Nonstop, presented by Sprint. And as you watch Jeff Gordon talk it over with his crew chief, Alan Gustafson, the Geico 400, race number 1 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. He is under caution for its 4th time after that hard crash for Gordon in turn 1 a couple of moments ago.
It's a shame. Had a really solid day. Way up in the top 5, running 4th there.
Yeah. And some big damage to that 24 car. Matt Kenseth has made a couple of trips down the pit lane to work on that 17 car.
Come on in there and we'll get it tight.
Crew Chief Jimmy Fennig. As they bring the 17 car back in one more time. Let's go to Jamie.
And Jeff Gordon watching all these guys working on his car, going to try to get him out there. But Jeff, first of all, are you okay? And what did you feel and see there?
Yeah, I'm fine. We're having a good day. Guys did an awesome job in the pits and tuning on the car, top 5, and who knows what we could have done with them at the end. But, yeah, we had a throttle stick. It didn't stick wide open. I just let off the throttle, and it just didn't come all the way back. It was probably about half throttle, which is still enough to do a lot of damage. And, we're looking at what the issue is right now, what could have caused that. Something, I think, in the return spring.
But they're going to hope to get you back out.
Yeah, we'll get back out, but in this deal, you can't afford to have issues like that. And by the time we get back out, we'll make up every spot and every point we can.
All right, not the way they want to start.
Well, if you think about it this year, though, this has just been all these crazy things that have happened to Jeff Gordon. This is just another one. I mean, it's like, what else can happen to him? It's not that they hadn't had good race cars. We talked about that earlier. They had a great car today.
10th time Jeff will have a finish of 20th or worse this season, which is why he was in that position of trying to scramble into the chase in the first place. Update on Matt Kenseth, Vince.
Well, Matt Kenseth came in a multitude of times. Really, the first time was to evaluate the situation. Came in a second time. They changed the shock, bolted the bottom of it in. Came in a third time and got the top bolted. And then they came back again just to make sure that they got everything tight. His crew chief, Jimmy Fennig, wanted to double check and make sure 100% that it was tight on top and bottom. Jimmy just told me a moment ago, no damage to the shock mount, but they did have to replace that shock. They think they're all good to go, but boy, they've lost a lot of position.
We'll be back toward the tail end of the lead lap as we get set for this restart. That'll come with 73 laps to go. Out of the top 4 qualifiers in the AT&T Fastest Driver Challenge today, Jimmy Johnson leading the race would be the fastest running of those 4. Remember to text FAST to 34763 and play AT&T's Fastest Driver Challenge, or visit AT&TFastestDriver.com. You could have a chance to win 4 Gs just by playing. Well, it's been a little eventful section of the race, hasn't it?
No doubt about that.
Free pass, Jamie McMurray. 23 cars on the lead lap at the restart. Tony Stewart 3 wide on the outside in that 14.
Tony Stewart got 4 tires once again, as a number of these other drivers in front of him elected to take 2 there. See how that works for him in this long run, if there is a long run.
Look at this 4 wide. Almirola 43, Harvick 29, Boyer 15, Martin 55.
See Martin give his teammate there, Clint Boyer, a little bit of room there, back down to the throttle to not make that a bad situation.
And Paul Menard to the inside of Boyer now for that spot. I know the caution and cleanup took a little while, so just to refresh you from the pit stops, there were 7 teams that took just right side tires, including Jimmy Johnson, Brad Keselowski, Casey Kane, Kyle Busch, Joey Logano, Mark Martin, and Regan Smith. Boyer was up front and moving forward earlier in the race. Since, I don't know, what, about 100 miles in, he's kind of been slipping and sliding around and struggling.
Yeah, adjustments they've made to the 15 car just haven't been to his liking at all. And with the racetracks changing that much, he'll not be able to make this car happy or make Clint Boyer happy with his car, James.
Well, basically, he said he's just been lacking overall grip all day long, and he said, but I'm hesitant to ask you for any changes. So the last stop, they just put 4 tires on it and left it alone to see what would happen for this last run. But overall, he's been pretty loose today.
I've heard a lot about loose conditions from a lot of drivers here today. Well, you can be a little bit on that free side, but if you go to what these drivers are talking about loose, you just can't make speed around this racetrack, and it makes it difficult, especially when you're in traffic and trying to make passes.
While we were watching for Clint Boyer, you saw Regan Smith pulling down to the inside lane. He's come back to the pit lane, and the hood has gone up on the 78 car. That was Clint Boyer, by the way. Kyle Busch, 18. Denny Hamlin, 11. 5th place at stake here. Denny Hamlin, the top seed, entering the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. 4 wins on the season. Driver probably with the most momentum coming into the chase after the wins at Bristol and Atlanta, leading the most laps at Richmond. The rain and the circumstances kind of conspired against him to get that win.
Well, we'll see what he's going to have as this race starts to wind down. 67 laps to go, but yeah, he's been about a 5th to 8th place car most of the day. If he's hiding something, he's done a good job of disguising that good car.
Yeah, well, he got 4 tires the last time. He's the first car on the track with those 4 against a lot of cars that took 2, so this is time for him to shine.
Kyle Busch was not one of those whose teams chose to go the 4-tire route on that last stop. Dave?
No, bet they will on the last stop, though. Kyle will need them. Crew Chief Dave Rogers told me this weekend he's been really, really happy with the car. In fact, Kyle called it the best car he's ever had here. So with that in mind, Dave said it was more of an educated guess on what the conditions would do for us today. And Kyle's car has been pretty close to spot on. Remember last time, just a little bit tight and needed to be snugged up, or a little bit loose, needed to be snugged up just a tick with air pressure.
Well, the best car he's ever had here. That's a statement considering Kyle Busch won this race in 2008.
Let's see how this plays out, but with Denny Hamlin and his team taking those 4 tires, could possibly put them in a situation of looking at 2, as everybody else has to get 4.
Sorry, DJ, that's Dave Blaney, who's got no power under the hood of that 36 car, limping back around.
It looks like that 36 is going to make it back around. I don't think we'll get a caution for that.
Yeah, initially I thought maybe he was too slow, but it looks like he got plenty of momentum now to make it back.
Regan Smith has gone to the garage. Blaney will, in fact, make it back around to the pit lane. And we stay under the green flag. Jimmy Johnson leading Brad Keselowski by 1.1 seconds. Jimmy says they've got a great plan.
Great job, bud. Like we're gassed on from here on out. I think we got a good plan. Pulled it to try to get ahead of these guys by a couple of seconds. But
We are into the final 100 miles of the Geico 400. The opening race in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup on a spectacular mid-70 degree Sunday afternoon at Chicagoland Speedway. Jimmy Johnson has led most of the laps in this one. He and Brad Keselowski running 1 and 2. They have together led almost all of the laps in this race so far. Tonight on baseball's biggest stage, Bryce Harper and the Nationals continue to try and close in on the National League East crown. They face division rival, the Atlanta Braves, tonight in the wild card hunt. The Braves are. It's Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell. National Braves, Nationals and Braves, tonight at 8 on ESPN.
The Braves won the first couple of games of this series.
Got to be exciting. Nationals, all those young players and a relatively new team. So, into the final 100 miles of this race. Strategies now. One more pit stop to go for all these front runners, depending on the fall of the caution flags. And let's get an update on how those contending for the win in this race feel about their race so far and what lies ahead. Dr. Jerry Punch is covering the race leader, Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, AB, I don't think anybody can come close to making it on fuel. They're about 15 or 20 laps shy. You heard Chad Canals tell Jimmy Johnson, we got a good plan. Try to get at least a 2-second lead if you can. And just like the last time Jimmy took 2 right sides only, the car has gotten tight, primarily in the center of the corner. Now behind him is Brad Keselowski. Brad took 2 right sides as well, and the last time Brad took 2 rights, the car took off. I got to believe Brad right now saving a little fuel. He said on the radio, guys, I'm not sure how this car can be any better than it is right now. Dave Byrne.
Casey Kane saving just a bit too, but he also took only 2 right side tires on the last stop. The thought was we won't have to put as much fuel in if you save me a little now. So that going on, we'll see how it works out. He said nothing since the restart as far as the balance goes. As for Joey Logano, his car just a little bit free off right now. Remember, he got caught on pit road earlier, but has made his way back up. He also on the 2-tire strategy on the last stop. Doc?
As DJ and Indy documented, the 11 car took 4 tires. One of the cars that took 4 tires on that last stop on lap 190. He was loose on entry. They added some wedge, and Darian Grubb had said, you know, we got a good car, maybe not a great car. If we can get a top 5, maybe we should get a 3rd or better. We'll be okay today. Dave.
The 3rd Joe Gibbs Racing car, Kyle Busch. He has gone backwards since the restart. That's because his car is a little tight, and this is the first time all day he's been on a 2-tire strategy stop. So Kyle feeling the effects of that right now.
Sam Hornish Jr. running 7th. He's good in everything he runs here. 2-time IndyCar winner at this track. He said his car has been pretty good. He went 1 lap down early because of a speeding penalty. They fought their way back, been adjusting on it with wedge adjustments, and the car tends to be better on long runs, so they don't like to see those caution flags, Doc.
And behind him, Tony Stewart back in 8th spot, Jamie. And Tony said after the pit stop, you know, guys, we are a little tight in the center, but we're really good on drive off. We get good power on the drive off. But the last time by, Tony said, no, guys, we're starting to lose the stability that's going away here in our car. Jamie.
Behind him is his teammate Ryan Newman. Tony Gibson, his crew chief, told me this morning they have a great handling race car, but they were down on speed. They've been throwing things at it all weekend long, including today. Have gotten the car much better, but he tends to be better on the short runs. Dave?
I'm going to call Martin Truex's car frustratingly fast. He's driven from 13th to 10th on the restart, but he cannot get a good feel for that race car. Feels like the front end is up in the air coming off the corners. But still, it seems to be moving in the right direction, Vince.
The 88 of Dale Earnhardt Jr. not as good as he was early in the race, said it's just been too loose off. They made an air pressure adjustment and a track bar adjustment on that last pit stop. The only driver to finish in the top 10 in all 6 races on the mile-and-a-half this season. He's struggling to get to the top 10 right now. Jamie?
And Greg Biffle doing the same thing, struggling with his car on the last stop. He wanted a spring rubber taken out, but they said it would take too long, so they settled for a wedge adjustment. Been loose all day, just came with the wrong setup this weekend and have been throwing some different things to change that setup. Now behind him, Clint Boyer. These two have been running around each other all day long. And on that last stop, as I mentioned, no adjustments on the car, but Clint's saying it's plowing. He's been lacking grip all day. He's been loose, so the car hasn't been to his liking. They thought they'd be better on this last run here.
All right, Jamie, thanks. So there is Clint Boyer in 13th. Other chasers, you got Kevin Harvick in 15th and Matt Kenseth in 21st. Jeff Gordon, remember, in the garage area after the hard crash a little while ago. He's currently being shown in 35th position. Jimmy Johnson out in front. 49 laps to go at Chicagoland. Jimmy Johnson, the 5-time NASCAR Sprint Cup champion, leading the opening race in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup, looking to kick off his bid for title number 6 in fine style.
Geico 400 in Chicago is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Sonic. Welcome 2 new members to the Sonic family. The Zesty Cheesesteak and Smoked Chipotle Breakfast Burritos. And AT&T, the nation's largest 4G network. AT&T. Rethink possible.
Down to 42 laps to go. And it has been a Jimmy Johnson kind of day. About the only other guy to spend any significant amount of time in front of this race has been Brad Keselowski, who's currently 1.3 seconds behind Jimmy Johnson at a track where he's never won. To score a win in the opening race in the chase, would it send some kind of statement to the rest of the field, Jimmy?
Yeah, I think a win sends a statement for sure. I'm not so sure that it's because I haven't won here before. You know, mile and a halves have... There's a general setup that kind of works with them, and we've been strong on those tracks this year. And I've been so close before that I don't think the statement would really be in that. It'd be the fact that, you know, whoever it is could get max points. We know what wins mean, we know what max points mean, and it'd be more in that than anything.
Well, Jimmy's going to earn the bonus point for leading the most laps in this race today. At least he could get max points if he holds on to the number 1 spot till the checkered flag. And our Goodyear Superior performer today, Jimmy Johnson. He's led 171 of 227 laps. Mark Martin just started a round of green flag pit stops. Here's the first of the front runners to make a move in. Dave?
It is Joey Logano. You see him there on the left. His car pretty good right now. They're going to make a slight adjustment at the end here. Remember, he took 2 tires last time, so you would expect he'll want 4 this time. There's the chassis adjustment for him. They are going to get 4 tires, 1 last splash of Sunoco fuel to take him for these last 40 laps or so. Alan?
All right, Dave, thanks. And as we watch Logano leave on the left, thinking back to that radio transmission, we heard Chad Knaus say he wanted a 2-second lead. Jimmy Johnson's only got a 1-second lead over Brad Keselowski now. Dave?
Kyle couldn't make any ground on the front runners because he said the car was too loose. I can't get off the corner. There you see Dale Earnhardt Jr. on the left, Kyle Busch on the right. Kyle will get a 4-tire change, chassis adjustment for him. Vince?
It was a 2-tire change with a track bar adjustment for Dale Earnhardt Jr.
And from the lead, Jimmy Johnson is in. Casey Kane follows him from 3rd place. Brad Keselowski has stayed out. Final stop, if we stay green, for the 48, Doc.
Absolutely. The money stop for Chad Knaus, Jimmy Johnson, and its entire Hendrick team. Chad said, we have a plan. Jimmy said, got to free me up, guys. I got to free you up way too tight on 2 tires. It took 2 last time. This time they'll go ahead and put 4 fresh figures on it and get it full of Sunoco fuel. Jamie Little.
And Greg Biffle calling for another wedge adjustment, trying to get that car the best it's been all day here in the last run as they work on the left side. It'll be 4 tires for the 16. They wipe the grill. Doc?
Brad Keselowski said the car was just like it was before with 2 tires. We got to make a change. So they're going to offer 4 tires as well. They saw what the 48 did. Tear off on the windshield. Get it full of Sunoco fuel. Should be okay on fuel unless we have a couple of green-white checkers. Left side tires going on. Left rear, a bit of a glitch. Lug nuts tight. He's down and away. Vince.
Well, it's been a handful for Carl Edwards all day today. Really been fighting to center and loose off. That's still the way. The same situation here. It's a 4-tire change, air pressure adjustment for Carl Edwards.
11 car, Denny Hamlin in for what should be his final stop of the day. They've been battling with the car being a little bit loose on entry. They added wedge last time. It helped him, but not much. Going to make another chassis adjustment there in the left rear. Put on the right side tires. And a good pit stop going to the left side. Denny Hamlin hoping to be able to get a top 5 finish here on this final stop of the day. Guys?
Tony Stewart, now the race leader. While after their pit stops, look at Brad Keselowski and Jimmy Johnson as they come back onto the racetrack.
Keselowski was all the way down the apron on the front straightaway trying to make this pass.
Keep that in mind if things cycle out. Stewart, Boyer, McMurray, Reagan have not pitted. Then it goes back to this for the race lead. Brad Keselowski was 1.1 seconds behind Jimmy Johnson before the pit stops. He's come back onto the racetrack in front of him.
So you got to hand it to that team to make up 1+ seconds on a round of green flag stops on Jimmy Johnson. That's getting it done. Like Chad's got an issue with something here.
Tony Stewart is going to give up the lead to Pitt. 33 laps to go. And again, the last few will drop onto the pit lane to complete this cycle of stops. Doc?
Remember last time they took 4 tires. This time Steve Anderson says no. 2 right sides only, 1 can of fuel. Guys got to be quick. Right side's going on right front, right rear. Can of fuel in, and he's gone.
So there's Clint Boyer now leading. Now we saw him stretch his fuel a long way at Richmond last Saturday night to get the win, but that's asking a little much here.
Well, they might be gambling in a different way here. They might be trying to just hold out for a caution flag. Jamie, what's the strategy for this 15?
Well, they're definitely going to hold out. Brian Pattia's crew chief just said, give me 8 more good ones. So keep them out for 8 more laps, and when they pit, it'll be right sides only.
Yeah, that's a gamble probably worth playing for this team. They haven't been all that great today, and if they could get out here and catch a caution, that would definitely pay off for them. At this point, there's only 10 cars on the lead lap.
Joey Logano trying to make up some ground after his green flag pit stop. But again, Clint Boyer still out there on the racetrack, stretching the fuel a little bit. So the key moment in this race, that exchange of pit stops. Jimmy Johnson pitted at 2:29 from the lead. Brad Keselowski pitted a lap later from what was then the lead. They came back onto the racetrack together.
Still outside. He's up on the track. He's up on the track. Are you allowed to come up on the track that early? Oh, sir, he did not wait till his blend line. Inside, inside. Man, you screwed me up coming up on the track that early.
So what Jimmy is talking about, and the conversation from the spotter on the roof, Earl Barban, as we see the look at it.
Well, you're not supposed to blend until you get off turn 2, and I believe that's about where he was. I'm sure it was close.
And there's no actual line over there. It's you know, whenever you get to the back straightaway, it's what's supposed to be, but
well, one of the problems is it's not a straightaway. It's the backstretch has got a curve in it, so it's kind of hard to say, okay, this is where the straightaway begins and the corner ends. I'm sure that Brad's taking every advantage he thought he could there.
We are told that NASCAR is reviewing in race control while Clint Boyer is going to give up the lead and come to pit road. You see that Keselowski has moved away from Jimmy Johnson a little bit. Jamie?
Well, they've had a change of heart, as you see. Only stayed out for a few laps instead of 8. It'll be right sides only, as I had mentioned. 1 can of fuel for Clint Boyer. They were hoping for maybe a caution, but in the meantime, they did get that point.
All right, so Boyer rejoins Jamie McMurray and David Reagan, 1 and 2, not yet having pitted. There's McMurray in the 1. Just barely ahead of David Reagan. I say barely, 5 seconds ahead of him, and then it's going to go back a couple of more seconds till Keselowski and Jimmy Johnson, and McMurray waving that hand.
Yes, letting everybody know that he's eating to the bottom and coming into pit road. He's going to be slowing down this time.
NASCAR has looked at the situation with the 2's exit of pit road, reviewed the videotape, and said all good with the 2 car.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely close, but it was within that realm of argument that he was coming off turn 2.
Yeah, and you can always, I mean, as a driver, you're trying to get up to speed there. Very easy down on that flat surface of the apron to get loose and have to chase your car up there. I think Brad was just getting up to speed and trying to maximize that, but it would be a tough call for NASCAR to take something like that away just on that very small amount that we were talking about there. We were only talking about probably 100 feet at the most.
Yeah, and you look at what Brad's done since then. I mean, he's driven away from the 48. Definitely got a fast car this run.
And he's bypassed David Reagan, who comes to pit road now to complete the cycle of stops. So Brad Keselowski now back in the lead. And there's the gap to Jimmy Johnson, 1.6 seconds. So another look back at that exit of turn number 2. There's Keselowski ahead down on the apron.
He was talking, I'm telling you, it's 100 feet at the most is what NASCAR, if they were to go out there and put a line and say, this is where you need to stay on the apron until
there's no
the backstretch.
There's no defined line right there because the straightaway is curved. It's really just the kind of turn 2 unwinds as you come up on the backstretch.
All right, so dramatic turn of events on the final round of pit stops to this point here at Chicagoland Speedway, if we stay green to the finish. Time to go NASCAR Nonstop, presented by Sprint. "19 laps to go in chase race number 1, 2012 at the Chicagoland Speedway. Brad Keselowski leading Jimmy Johnson by 1.9 seconds. Aerial coverage provided by Goodyear. From pit lane to victory lane, every NASCAR driver counts on Goodyear tires. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. Remarkable late race turn of events here. Find Brad Keselowski out in front. Chase drivers win most of the chase races. That's why they're competing for the championship. They've been running up front and winning the races all season long. Brad, one of 2 drivers in the chase who's never won a chase race. Remember, this is only his 2nd time competing in the championship. To Dr. Jerry Punch.
Guys, turn back the clock to July. Remember back in July when Jimmy Johnson dominated the Brickyard, and afterwards the dejected Brad Keselowski said, wow, we're racing trucks and they're racing cars. We can't compete. Well, that was the incentive. Paul Wolf on the right of your screen. That's what he needed. He said, we have good cars. We don't have good enough. They knew that Jimmy and Chad would save that car for the chase, which is the car they brought here. But the car that the 2 has here, that Paul Wolf has, is a brand new race car. He went to work building new cars. This is the latest thing. It is lighter, has better weight placement, better downforce. This may be just what we need to compete with the 48, and I guess they were right. The work does indeed pay off for this Penske team.
Yeah, that's what I say. I spend a lot of time with these guys, and they just have so much confidence that they have what they need to win the championship this year, and they're proving it right now.
And I'm telling you, one thing they have is a guy that's driving that race car. I'm telling you, he would make David Pearson, the old Silver Fox, extremely proud of the way he played that last run, not letting Jimmy Johnson know exactly what he had.
Left of the screen, fourth place, Ryan Newman, Kyle Busch, 39 and 18. Kyle going to pick up that spot.
So what you're saying is Brad sat there behind Jimmy, made Jimmy think that he had a better car, so he didn't adjust on it?
I honestly think that he's that good. He thinks that far ahead and was just comfortable in running where he was running at that time and making them think that they were in good shape, because Jimmy ran out to a 2-second lead.
That lead shrank to 1 second just before the pit stops. And Jimmy pitted 1 lap before Brad did, leading by 1.1 seconds before they pitted. And then they came out side by side, and Brad cleared him and is driven away. 22, Sam Hornish, Dale Earnhardt Jr., 88. Let's talk about Junior's day. Just joining us, he started last. Driver error, as Junior told us on Countdown, after his qualifying lap, made them decide they needed to change the power plant in this 88 car before today's race to be safe. He's driven from the back up into the top 10, got shuffled farther back, now is working his way back into the top 10 again.
He changed 2 tires on that last green flag stop. Just seeing how that's going to play out for him. He saved a little bit of time by doing that, but I'm not sure that the car's as good as it was. Still working on Sam Hornish, though. Vince, how's it going now for the 88?
Well, they fought loose early in the day, and then as the day wore on, it seemed like it was tight, and they needed to free it up on that last stop with a track bar adjustment to go along with those right side tires that you mentioned, Andy. But the key for Steve Letarte is to get every single position, and he and his spotter TJ Majors have stressed that to Dale coming down the stretch, which guys they're battling for spots. As Letarte said to me earlier today, if you're a 5th place car, you better get 5th, not 20th trying to get 3rd. They understand after last year's chase, going down to the tiebreaker, every single spot may mean the championship later.
We learned that lesson last November at Homestead when Carl Edwards and Tony Stewart tied on the number of points for the championship, and Tony won the title on a tiebreaker. Brad Keselowski in some lap traffic now, and his lead back to Jimmy Johnson is that 1.6 seconds you're looking at there.
Nice job, man. You're catching them about a 10th and a half a lap. At that rate, you'll pass them here with 2 to go.
Yeah, I'm looking at the lap times. You're talking about how smart Keselowski is. I saw there he picked up 3/10 right about the time that Jimmy Johnson was told that. It ran really as quick as laps I've seen in this run. I think he's got some more in reserve.
Talking about last year's championship, there was Carl Edwards, who tied with Tony Stewart, going a lap down here today.
Not eligible to win the championship this year after a difficult struggle. Again, not with us for the duration of the race today. Jeff Gordon running in 4th position at lap 187 when the throttle stuck partially open on his car, screaming off into turn 1. He clobbered the wall. Jeff fortunately okay. You see he's in 35th place coming back onto the racetrack, trying to see if he can overtake a couple of the other cars like Dave Blaney and Regan Smith that have dropped out with engine troubles in the late stages of the race and pick up a couple of more points toward the championship.
Yeah, this doesn't ruin his championship chances, but he's going to have to win at least 2 races now to make up for that, to get himself back in this battle.
Matt Kenseth, one of the other championship contenders who has had his difficulties today. A right front shock fell off the 17 car. They've made 4 pit stops to repair it. But Matt's running in 18th position now, and he's about to go a lap down to leader Brad Keselowski.
Hey, the Fords have struggled mightily here today. Even though Kenseth ran okay early, their top Ford right now is Greg Biffle back in the 13th spot.
And it looks like, barring some really strange twist of circumstances, that strange streak of Ford never having won at Chicagoland Speedway is going to continue. So there was the gap. Jimmy Johnson falling back from Brad Keselowski.
And it looks like Brad can run
like I said, 2 or 3 tenths quicker at any time than what he has been, and every now and then he does it. I just don't think that 48's got anything for him right now.
You see on each of the last 4 laps, the gap between first and second growing and growing.
The traffic's not that Brad's coming up on is not affecting him at all. His race car seems to be just as good. If he needs to go to the very bottom, if they move down, then he's able to make that center groove work just as well too. Running about the same lap time.
Well, for each of these drivers and each of these teams coming into the championship, there's kind of a storyline or a theme. And we talked about it with Brad and Paul Wolfe and Penske Racing just a little bit ago. Are they ready? Is it their time? And if ever you want to make a statement to folks that you're ready, why not by winning the first race in the chase? And that would be their 4th win of the season if it all holds up.
Yeah, you go back there to that Indianapolis deal where Brad kind of called out the 48 that they were doing things in a couple of other places.
Keep rolling, man. A lot can happen here.
Looked like they went to work and decided that it may be that way. We've got to go to work on our equipment. We've got the driver.
Jeff Gordon's gone back to the garage. 93 Travis Kvapil is off the pace down on the apron of the racetrack. Is he going to make it all the way back around, or will he stop and bring out a caution flag? He's only in turn number 1.
The 93 is slow on the bottom. I doubt he'll make it back. Just keep rolling here. You got plenty of room out back.
If he doesn't make it back and the caution comes out, it's going to erase a 3-second lead that Keselowski's built up over Jimmy Johnson. If.
Yeah, it looks like he might make it back.
Coming to 2 to go. Yeah, I think he's going to make it.
Hi, buddy. 2 laps. 2 more times.
Really impressed with how Keselowski and Paul Wolfe work together throughout a race as things change. Really seem to get this car at its best more times than not at the end.
What I like about what they do is Paul looks at the end of the race before it even starts. He looks at the end and he knows where he wants to be when that happens, and he's just worked it masterfully today.
Thought I heard a little blurb over Brad's radio a minute ago, and I think we actually captured it.
Yeah, zero got it. Is it Miller time yet?
It's about 1 more lap till Miller time, Brad.
White flag is up. Brad Keselowski.
No worries from behind.
Led the second most laps in this race. Jimmy Johnson started on pole and dominated much of the event. Brad, the guy who led the second most laps, but was trailing Jimmy Johnson heading into the final pit stops, and he made up a 1.1 second deficit to wrestle the lead away from the 5-time champ coming off the pit lane, and he's pulled away from there. 4th win of the season, chase win number 1, Chicagoland to Brad Keselowski.
Yeah, great job, everybody. Great job. I'm proud of you, everybody. Thank you, thank you. It was a fun day, wasn't it? A great weekend all around. I appreciate everybody's hard work. You know, we're bringing a brand new race car to the racetrack and performing like this.
Something's happened on the last lap to Denny Hamlin.
That was the point leader coming in here. He's losing points by the second right now.
He was running in 9th, and he's being overtaken by lead lap cars. We'll follow up on what happened to the 11 in our post-race coverage. But how about Brad Keselowski and this Penske Racing team finding a way to get around the race's dominant driver, dominant car, and pull off a win?
You know, we talked about him getting into the chase last year as a wild card with those victories and things, how much of a factor could they be. They ran well in the chase, but I think they've just shown right now.
Nice job.
We talked about the 48 and the 11. Who's the favorites here? These guys might be.
They are right now.
Well, Paul Wolfe bought a brand new race car here, Doc, and it's doing a victory burnout right now.
Yeah, Paul, the gamble paid off. A brand new car to race one of the chase, and you're headed to victory lane. How does that make you feel?
It's great. It feels great. There's been a lot of hard work that's gone into this, and we knew we needed a little speed here through the summer months. We had some great races, great finishes, but we knew we needed a little more to be able to run with the 48, and says a lot about all the guys back at the shop continuing to work hard and pushing forward with that. And now we're able to see the results today. It was a great day on pit road. We had a little hiccup there early, but the guys rebounded in the stop that counted. They were on, and everybody on this Miller Lite team should be proud of what we've done.
Congratulations. Go celebrate.
All right, thanks.
Alan?
First time ever in his NASCAR Sprint Cup career that Brad Keselowski is the championship leader. And he'll go to the race next Sunday at New Hampshire, leading Jimmy Johnson by 3 points and Tony Stewart by 8th.
One thing I got from that tone of voice from Paul Wolf is he's also looking at the end of this chase. I don't think he's just looking at today. I mean, he's happy they won the race, but I think he's looking way down the road. He wants the big prize.
Hearing that Denny Hamlin ran out of fuel.
What they did is they changed 2 tires on that last stop, and they only took 1 can of fuel.
He was running in 9th. He finished in 16th.
No, they did take 4. I'm sorry, they took 4 tires. We expected them to take 2, and they didn't.
But maybe only 1 can of gas, and that wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Well, Jimmy Johnson led a lot of this race, Jamie, but he finished 2nd.
Yes, he did. Led the most laps today, had a pretty dominant car for the most part, but where did that 2 come from, and where do you think he had the advantage there in the closing laps?
The last maybe 3 runs, he was definitely a factor, and was probably a little better than him on the third to last. Next to last were about equal, and then that last one, he was just better. So congratulations to those guys. They did an awesome job, but a great way to start the chase for us. It's 10 long races, and a lot can happen. So to come out of here second is a great day. Of course, we want to be over there in victory lane. That's just a given. But we'll take the second. We'll go on to the next one. I'm real happy with where the Slows team is right now.
All right, great.
Even, but it looked like he made up a lot of time outside those lines.
Hamlin went from 9th to 16th, Dave.
Yeah, it was an average day, I guess I would say, gone worse there at the end, Denny. What happened, and how would you describe it?
Yeah, we didn't get the car full. We decided to make an adjustment and not put all the fuel in it, and it just told me I was 4 laps short, and it puts me in a box. I'm trying to hold my position, trying to slow down, and just couldn't slow down enough there, and so that's the way it goes. It's like it's frustrating, but our cars are fast enough. We can make it back up, but it's tough to lose that many spots that late. But it's just a thing we got to learn, and we'll grow from it.
Tough day for Denny Hamlin. Jamie?
Casey Kane brings it home 3rd, and he was a wild card. Now you're 5th, the best you've been all year. Take us through the day overall. How was your car? Seemed pretty consistent.
Yeah, the Farmers Insurance Chevrolet was good all day. We weren't as good as the 48, and we weren't as good as Brad at the end. He really got going, but we had a great car. The pit stops were awesome, and I felt good about it. We couldn't get any better. We made a lot of adjustments. Kenny and Keith did a really nice job, but we just couldn't figure anything out to make the car better. So I have this feel that I was lacking today, and hopefully we can talk about it this week and maybe get it better for some of these other mile and a halves.
Good to see Casey Kane back in the chase. First one since 2009. Vince?
With Dale Earnhardt Jr., and I know 8th place isn't what they wanted today, but considering where you started, that was a pretty good effort. How'd you feel about it?
Yeah, just disappointed myself for making that mistake with the engine and getting us that far back at the start of the race. We really couldn't overcome the track position. We had a great car at the start, the first half of the race, first 100, 130 laps. We had a really fast car. Made a couple adjustments that just didn't really help us how we needed help, and we sort of made the car ordinary, and just kind of had to maintain track position, and some guys had some trouble, and we're still in the fight. So we're going to the next one still with a shot.
Thanks, Dale. Dave? With Tony Stewart now, a 6th place finish for him today. Tony, describe your day.
Long. We probably passed more cars than anybody today, so not exactly what we were looking for, but I mean, we just were a little bit off, and we'll keep working at it. So if we can end up with a top 10 a little bit off, we can hit it, we'll be in good shape.
Thanks, Tony. Alan?
And in victory lane, Brad Keselowski has driven there. Victory lane presented by Tire Rack. Here's Dr. Jerry Punch.
Brad talking about getting a cold sip. They offered him one. He decided to climb out and wave to the fans. Let's listen in. We're going to is showered out here, and so is Kim Coon in the Sprint Cup as Brad celebrates in victory lane. Hey, buddy, what a great run. Talk to us, in all honesty, about the cat and mouse game you were playing. Were you really not showing your hand of the 48 until you had to?
No, we were both showing our hand. I don't know what happened. Look at the 48 either slowed down or we sped up on the last run. I can't tell which one. You guys probably know better than I do, but for some reason we just took off. But Miller Lite Dodge today was great. It seemed like this race was about 20 laps longer than I wanted it to be, but either way it worked out, and we got a similar time here. So we're in victory lane, race 1 in the chase. You know, Jerry, it feels like round 1 of a heavyweight title bout. You know, it's good to win it. It feels great, but there's a lot of rounds left, and it was just a good start, but long ways to go.
After Indy, you were so dejected talking about you're driving a truck and they're driving cars, and then your guys went to work and built a brand new car. What does that say? What's the message with this new cars coming out for Penske that gives to the others in the chase?
Well, Rusty would say I'm driving hot rods, so I got hot rods now instead of trucks, and this car was really good, and I'm proud of everybody at Penske Racing. Thanks, good job, guys, and brand new race car, and just a nice piece, and a nice day here in Chicago for our whole team.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Jerry. Glad to be here with you, man.
Brad Keselowski, first ever chase victory, 4th win of the year, and first time in victory lane in a Sprint Cup car at Chicagoland Speedway.
I agree with Brad on this. It is the first round of a long championship fight. By percentage of season, the longest in major North American professional sports. Those 10 races, 28% of the total schedule in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Matt Kenseth wound up salvaging 18th place on the day, Vince.
Salvaging indeed, and I know it wasn't the kind of day you wanted to start the chase with, but how difficult was it for you?
The whole weekend it was just honestly awful. We got the first practice in and tried getting some stuff together to try for the second practice, and we couldn't figure out how to get it together for some reason, and wasted a whole second practice. Kind of ran like that today, very mediocre, and then I guess the shock wasn't tight and the shock fell off, and just really wrecked our day. So it was frustrating. It was trying.
Thanks, Matt. 18th at the finish today. He's now 11th in the standings.
All right, Vince, and we check those championship standings after round 1 of the 10 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup.
Yeah, a lot of guys with something to feel good about. Casey Kane moved up in points. He's got a fast car. But Denny Hamlin, even though he lost all those spots at the end, his car's plenty fast, like he said, to get those points back.
Yeah, we've heard Greg Biffle talk about that he felt like they were in a position to win this chase. They're obviously going to have to perform better, but still within reason there. But terrible day for Jeff Gordon, unfortunately.
The throttle sticking on his car and the big crash in turn 1, and Jeff Gordon finishes in 35th position. Well, the victory celebration for the winning crew chief and his team. All their hard work in bringing that brand new race car here paying off. And for Denny Hamlin, Darian Grubb, and his team, time to debrief, regroup, figure out how to do better next time. More of the top 5 finishers now. Here's Dave.
It might be a bit of a victory for the 39 bunch today. Great run for Ryan Newman. How would you call it today?
Well, I think at best we had a 5th place car, and just happy to get that. The workshops for Warriors Steenhaus Foundation Chevrolet was decent at times. We had a couple good restarts there where we snuck in on 3 wide and made it work, but just happy to be in the top 5 again and stopping on pit lane. Guys did a great call with the strategy on 2 tires, and the tires were great today as far as durability goes. So hi to Mom and all the girls at home. I'm going elk hunting with Bill Jordan and the guys at Realtree, and I'll see y'all in Loudon.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Doc?
I'm caught up with Roger Penske in victory lane, and Roger, difficult night for you on the Izod IndyCar Series last night, losing a championship by a couple of points. Just has to take some of the sting out.
Well, I think last night, it's tough on Will, but Hunter Ray did a great job all season. Our team did. But, boy, coming here to Chicago and winning that first race of the chase this year is outstanding. It shows you the commitment by this Miller Lite team and the whole gear. I mean, I tell you, it's fantastic. And you can't wait to go to the next race.
A couple of years ago, as we are showered by your sponsor's product, a couple of years ago, this guy gave you your first NASCAR title in the Nationwide Series. What makes you think you guys are going to get a Cup title from him this year?
Well, I think he's focused. Obviously, he's had the experience, and Paul Wolf and this whole Miller Lite team has just got it. The engineering department, our engine guys, I want to take my hat off to Scott Courier, his team today. But overall, can't thank everybody but the team, and to me, we'll just move on to next week.
Roger Penske, I think he said it all, guys.
And Doc, not to be lost in all this, the fact that the Penske team is changing brands next season, and yet they're still bringing out brand new Dodges and all the best horsepower they can muster to try and win this championship this season.
Well, what a way to go out for Dodge if Brad Keselowski can keep this up.
New Hampshire next Sunday. And then the Monster Mile in Dover as the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup takes a little northeastern swing. And then the big wild card, Talladega, to begin the month of October. Join us at the racetrack, NASCAR.com/tickets, or the number at the bottom of the screen. Final thought on what you saw today here at Kansas upcoming here at Chicagoland Speedway.
Well, I'll tell you this, what they've done with this two-team, I'm not totally surprised because I felt like Jimmy Johnson's biggest challenger in this chase is going to be Brad Keselowski and possibly the 11 car. But, boy, they sure made a statement today. I mean, this car was awesome.
Yeah, what I saw from Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus was exactly what we all expected. But Brad Keselowski had a little something for him, and I'm telling you, David Pearson's sitting at home grinning right now after he watched that race, thinking of what that young man pulled off right there. He's not going to tell everybody what he did, if indeed that is what it was, but he was right whenever it counted, and that's at the end.
Well, a few hours ago, we came on the air talking about who had what strengths and attributes toward winning the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series championship. And Nicole, we know that this Penske Racing team has a pretty sturdy driver in a brand new race car that's going to serve them well.
Absolutely. I think Ray Evernham said earlier, your heart told you to pick Jeff Gordon for the championship, but if one of them faltered, being Jeff Gordon or Jimmy Johnson, who did you expect to be there?
Well, as I said, 48 and 24, if they did not achieve to their utmost ability, that number 2 car is going to be right there because those guys have proven they will punch above their weight.
Yeah, you're exactly right. But Jimmy Johnson was really dominant today, and Brad really just came on. He and Paul Wolfe were very consistent throughout all of their runs, put themselves in position, and, boy, they took off. But all of the chase performers outside of Jeff Gordon and Denny Hamlin at the end there really performed pretty well.
Well, there was 2 guys to me that just made huge statements today. I mean, the 48 car, Jimmy Johnson, leading 172 laps with that Indianapolis car, that special car they got that ran so well. But another thing we said in NASCAR Countdown was, hey, look at the 2 car, the 48 and the 2. They just look real strong, and that's how they finished, and that's where they're at in the points right now. So, I mean, they laid a huge gauntlet down, a big statement today in my eyes. So this was a great run out of the 2 car. And this is the world headquarters for Miller Brewing Company right here in Chicago now. They moved out from Milwaukee to Chicago. He had a huge
You don't know anything about that.
I do. And so he really made a lot of his sponsors happy today, I can tell you that.
The flip side of having a really good day, and we talked about this earlier as well, when you go into the chase and you only have 10 races to get it right, you have to minimize the mistakes. You have to minimize the bad days. And when we're looking at the field, Greg Biffle, slow pit stop, put him behind. Matt Kenseth had the shock fell off, put him in 18th. Jeff Gordon, he had the issue with the throttle. And Denny Hamlin, someone that Ray pointed out, concerned about the consistency within that Joe Gibbs Racing team. They ran him out of gas on the last lap.
Well, you know, we said before, again, this is a team that has more than once come off of the regular season with multiple wins and been in good shape and have had either mechanical or mental issues. They just made a slight mistake, didn't get enough gasoline in the car. As they made that change, and it ended up costing them several spots, you know, and you just can't do that as close as it's going to be.
It may be a statement rate, as you said, for Brad Keselowski, but if we look at the past chases for what to expect here, only twice has the eventual champion gone on to win the chase. I mean, the eventual champion of race number 1, 2004, the very first chase, and most recently, 2011, with Tony Stewart. How important is it to have that momentum coming into the final 9 races of the season?
Nicole, it's everything in the world to come off with race 1, a victory like that. You saw how excited Roger Penske was, the car owner. He's so pumped up after a miserable night in IndyCar out in California. To come out here and win this race, look at his smile. He's fired up. He knows he's switching to Ford next year, but he's going to give it all he's got. Just like he said earlier, they're building brand new cars for only 10 races, so the guy's really committed. And to go out there and win race 1, the morale in the shop is sky high right now. They're pumped up. going to the next race, and so it's everything.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I also think that Denny Hamlin, because of the way he finished the regular season, has a great opportunity to continue to pick up some of that momentum. They did make a mistake, and it cost them a lot of positions at the end of the day, but they still can build off of what they did at the end of the regular season, along with someone like Dale Earnhardt Jr., who's been incredibly consistent throughout the season. He's going to have a little bit of a pep in his step because he started shotgun on the field. He had to go to the back of the field, ended up 8th. So that tells him if he hadn't have had that engine issue, he could have had a really, really strong run instead of just a good one. So that's good confidence going into the next
Kind of
week.
goes back to minimizing the bad days.
Yeah.
It does, but you asked, was it important to win? A wise old man once told me you can't win them all unless you win the first one.
That's right.
And
Or
they
the
won
first
the first one. And this Brad Keselowski, Paul Wolf combination is very aggressive, and I don't want to overlook the fact that they were fast on the racetrack, but they really made up over a second on Jimmy Johnson and the 48 team on a green flag pit stop. That tells me that they are really paying attention to all the details.
Perhaps an area of that 2 team we have been overlooking, because lately we've been talking about the 11 crew. Brad Keselowski has only led the championship once in his Sprint Cup Series career. That time, right now, could not have come at a better time, and here's how they stack up after this first race of the chase. Any surprises there?
I really don't think there's any surprises if you really look at it. Denny Hamlin, like I said, he's the guy that gave away the most today, but it's just one race. Obviously, we want to get off to a good start, but next week is the next race.
Tony Stewart, a guy I'm looking at, qualified really bad out there today, started the race way back and worked himself all the way up to 6th. You never can count Tony out. He won this championship last year. He was consistent today, and there he is, 3rd in the points, only 8 points out.
Dale Earnhardt Jr., Martin Truex, and Clint Bowyer didn't have great days, but they all salvaged top 10 finishes and kept themselves in the chase. They fought through, did what they had to do, and then go on the next week.
Let's go back. Lap 242 was the crucial moment in this race, because that is when Brad Keselowski took the lead from Jimmy Johnson. This is after green flag pit stops. A little bit of, shall we say, controversy on this because of where Brad Keselowski came up onto the track.
Well, he came up in a racetrack in an area we thought was a little bit early, but after the replays of the video, he came up in the proper place on the racetrack. But one thing he did correctly, he just stayed in that throttle and buried that thing down into turn 3 and didn't let Johnson get anything on him. With a head of steam like Jimmy Johnson had on Brad right there, I thought Jimmy would drove right past him, but he didn't. He sailed it down into turn 3. Like us old Carl Edwards do at Kansas City one time, and it stuck this time for him, and he kept that lead, and that was the key moment of the race.
Yeah, Jimmy was obviously strong when he was out front in clean air, but Brad did a great job of coming off pit road, getting in front of him, staying in front of him, racing him hard, staying in the throttle, like Rusty said, head-to-head, nose-to-nose. He was better in 1 and 2. Jimmy was better in 3 and 4. He just played his cards right.
1 race down, 9 to go, and next week we head to a very different track from Chicagoland. We head to Loudon, New Hampshire, and New Hampshire Motor Speedway. As a crew chief, how do you make that change from this type of track to that type of track?
Well, again, all the guys in the chase have run well at a lot of different places. The guys that are going to make that change fairly easy, Kenny Francis, Casey Kane in the number 5 car, taking the car back there that they won with earlier in the spring. We know that Tony Stewart has been tough there. I'm expecting that could be a place Martin Truex gets his first win during a chase.
What do you expect we'll see?
I think Ray is really close. Martin puts a lot of emphasis on that race. It's his home track, basically, when we go there. So a great opportunity for him to finally get to victory lane. If he does, I think it'll open up the floodgates, and it couldn't be a better time to start picking up a lot of victories than besides the chase.
Because that was a team we were surprised with a little bit today.
Yeah.
Martin Truex
Good
Jr.
finish.
finished 9th, Bowyer 10th. You expected them to be a little bit stronger. Your thoughts on New Hampshire?
New Hampshire, I'm right there with Ray Abraham. And drivers that are normally strong in the flat, short racetracks are really looking forward to going there. Tony Stewart's a guy I've got all over my radar. He loves that track. He's qualified well there. He's looking to go to New Hampshire next week and pick up some lost ground that he had here in Chicago. As a driver, you want to go to your favorite track, and that's one of his favorite racetracks.
We are wrapping things up here from Chicagoland, but the racing continues this evening. The O'Reilly Auto Parts NHRA Nationals, 8:30 p.m. tonight on ESPN2. And next weekend, a big weekend. It's a doubleheader weekend, 2 races, 2 places. The NASCAR Nationwide Series at Kentucky, 3:30 Eastern on Saturday, and Sunday, race 2 of the chase. The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, Sylvania 300 at New Hampshire, 1 o'clock Eastern on Sunday. Final thoughts?
Real excited. Can't wait to get to New Hampshire next week and keep this chase rolling.
It's Miller time.
Yes, it is.
Boy, that 48-2 are bad to the bone today. They were so close. I can't wait to see what's going to happen next week in New Hampshire.
Brad Keselowski, 1 chase race in, 1 chase race win. He leads the points. Coming up next, it's Sports Center with more coverage of race number 1 and the chase to the Sprint Cup. We will see you next weekend.
Beautiful weather and big stakes for the Geico 400.
Come on, boys, let's go.
The throttle's done. We're done.
Look at Brad Keselowski.
He's driven away from the 48.
Chase win number 1, Chicagoland to Brad Keselowski.